Yeah. Wishing you all a very good morning. The Department of Interreligious Studies welcomes you to the International Symposium on the theme of rejuvenation. DIRS is a platform for in depth exploration of social, political, ethical, religious, and philosophical aspects, all contributing towards the greater goal of fostering reflection and growth. I now invite our student lead Suraj and the core team of DIRS to speak a few words.
Check. Hello everyone. I wholeheartedly welcome all of you for the International Symposium on Rejuvenation. That is the actual theme for DIRS as well this year. And first of all, it is a pleasure to welcome all of you. And second of all, we have a whole list of really brilliant speakers for today's session as well. I would like to introduce the core here. That is Shri Krish Santosh, who is the editor, chief editor of the journal, the Sangam, which will be talking about which we'll be talking about in a certain while. We have Akshada Sinha, who is the networking executive. We have Anjasha Joy, who's the digital creators, or the entire creators team. She's been handling that. We have Manya Hora, who is looking after the finance. She's the finance executive. We have Riva, who is the event management executive. She is running behind all the events again. Yes, yes. And also we have Kashvi Desai, who is looking after the documentation. We also have Aditi Mahambre, who is looking after the administration executive. And for after introducing all of the core, we would like to talk about two important people. That is uh, Father Keith D'Souza here. Father Keith D'Souza is the director of the Department of Interreligious Studies. He's also the rector of St. Xavier's College here. And we also have Dr. Radha Kumar, who is associate professor in the Department of Ancient Indian Culture and Archaeology. And she is also the one who has guided us throughout the year regarding any events of DIRS and and especially the symposium. Both of them, Father Keith D'Souza and Radha ma'am, we would not be able to of such a big event at such a big scale, welcoming all the speakers and every faculty member. And we would really like all of you to enjoy and engage in discussion and also elaborate on your views and ask questions to the speakers. We would very much like all of you to keep it very interactive and enjoy your day. Thank you. Harsh?
Because when we have our professor speaking, how is he going to be seeing us, right? Yeah, we can use
my
that.
laptop.
What if he plays this here so that Arushi is with me? Yes.
Correct. Correct.
Is this better?
Yeah, let's please just get this sorted first before we start our sessions.
Yes, perfect. I think we've got this. No, Father, now it will be visible because this is the camera.
It's done, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to have been the editor-in-chief of the annual publication of the DIRS Sangam Journal 2023-24. I've had the honor of carrying this tradition forward this year. Keeping with the overarching theme of DIRS, which is rejuvenation, this year's journal focuses on a critical review of rejuvenation. The journal is a compilation of articles that asks and answers a simple question: how affordable, convenient, and practically applicable is rejuvenation in the modern life? We've tried our best with the student perspectives using intercultural and interreligious dialogue to be able to flesh out our articles. To commemorate and inaugurate the launch of the journal, I would like to invite the principal, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, to inaugurate Sangam Journal 23-24.
I would now like to invite our principal, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, to address our audience.
Good morning. So first of all, congratulations to the team for bringing out this Sangam issue. I'm sure you've done research while writing these articles. These articles are quality articles, right? Besides the quality, it also such activities also enhances your skill, the soft skills of getting articles for students is difficult task. You tell them, give it on Saturday, you will never get it on Saturday. So getting the article, editing the article, printing, talking to printer, these are all your soft skills. And I think Xavier's is known for honing your soft skills in all aspects. This is one. So congratulations once again. Congratulations to Radha ma'am and the director of the DIRS, Father Keith. all the guests, distinguished guests, the speaker from United States. I can see him on the screen. From Rome, I'm sorry. I know it must be early there in the morning or 5:30 in the morning. So, esteemed speakers and colleagues and participants, it's my privilege to welcome you all to this International Symposium on Rejuvenation, Challenges and Remedies, organized by the Department of Religious Studies of St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. We've gathered here to explore and dissect one of the most pressing themes of our time, rejuvenation, and to collectively seek solutions to the challenges it presents. In the world marked by rapid technological advancement, unprecedented environmental degradation, and profound societal changes, the concept of rejuvenation takes on, whenever I make a mistake, you know what I'm talking about, right? Refound significance. It beckons us to pause on the state of our planet, our societies, and ourselves, and to ponder the path forward towards the renewal and revitalization. As scholars and practitioners in the field of religious studies, we are actually aware of the profound insights that religious and spiritual traditions offer in our quest of rejuvenation. Throughout the history, these traditions have served as well springs of wisdom, guiding humanity through times of turmoil and transformation. They have provided solace in moments of despair, fostered unity amidst diversity, and instilled values of compassion, justice, and stewardship of the earth. Yet, even as we draw inspiration from these traditions, we cannot ignore the formidable challenges that stand in our way. Climate change threatens the very fabric of life on Earth, aggravating natural disasters, distress, displacing communities, and jeopardizing biodiversity. Economics disparities continue to widen, leaving millions marginalized and vulnerable. Social injustice persists, perpetuating cycles of discrimination and inequality. In the face of such daunting challenges, the need of rejuvenation on both individual and collective levels has never been more urgent. Allow me to illustrate this with the example or potential and with potential solution related to the college. Let's consider a group of students from a diverse background at St. Xavier's College. Despite their differences, they share a common desire for personal growth and academic success. However, as they navigate the complexities of college life, they encounter various obstacles that threatens their well-beings and hinder their ability to thrive. Are such challenges is the prevalence of mental health issues among the students, including stress, anxiety, and depression, the pressure of academic performance, social expectations, and future uncertainties take a toll on their mental and emotional well-being, leading to the feelings of overwhelm and despair. In response to this challenge, the college, in collaboration with student organizations, faculty members, and mental health professionals, implements the comprehensive rejuvenation plan, drawing on principles of empathy, inclusivity, and holistic education. They create a supportive environment where students feel valued, heard, and empowered to seek the help when needed. By fostering a culture of care and inclusivity, also innovation and integration, we can create a college environment where all students have the opportunity to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. As we engage in discussion and deliberation over the course of this symposium, let us remain mindful of the interconnectedness of the living beings and the interdependence of our actions. Let us approach our conversation with humility, curiosity, and willingness to listen and learn from one another. And let us leave this symposium not only deeper understanding of the challenges we face, but also with a renewed hope, inspiration, and a sense of purpose to effect positive change in the lives of students and beyond. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the organizer, Father Keith, Dr. Radha, and the student team for organizing such a wonderful and meaningful symposium. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind and insightful words. I would now like to invite Father Keith, the director for the IRS, to speak a few words.
So, dear friends, first of all, a very warm welcome for those who are coming from outside Xavier's. Most happy to have you on our campus. And at the outset, I would like to congratulate Dr. Radha and all the students who put in a lot of work. The DRS students, volunteers, they put in a lot of work. Bringing out a journal, as the principal mentioned, is not easy, student journal. And also many events run through the year. And this symposium, which is very much needed. The the word rejuvenation is a little bit of a tongue twister, but it has a the central word is the root word is yuva youth. It is a Indo-Germanic Indo-European word yuva youth, and in Europe you have many languages that have something basically to be young again. What makes us young again? I won't take much time because Father Bryan is waiting to deliver his keynote address. But I have written a forward to this journal, and you can read it later at leisure. Maybe I'll just read a few lines from there. The principal has given a very sort of a systemic analysis also with regard to which I have not done. I have made it more personal in this, but I think that's important. He's given a systemic uh, uh, background or template, a matrix or template, which invites us or challenges us to seek towards avenues for becoming young again. And he's also given a local example in terms of the college, which I think was very good, very apt. I'll just say a few words from this. Namely, I'll just read the first paragraph from my forward. Our personal and collective worlds are in need of healing. In the name of development, we have accelerated the pace of life and its attendant stresses to levels hitherto unexperienced in earlier, more sedate and less ambitious times. While technological innovation and organizational efficiency have made life more comfortable and predictable, they have come with a price which we pay knowingly or unknowingly in our domestic, institutional, professional, and social lives. We seem to have less time for persons and projects, live more hurried lives, and are possessed by the fear of missing out, FOMO. Most megapolitan citizens seem to live lives which embody the fate of Sisyphus. Sisyphus is that Greek mythological figure. The work never ended, pushing a rock up a hill and it rolls down again. Work never seems to get over. So we harbor aspirations and engage in tasks that never seem to have closure. What is the remedy? So we have various experts who have come to give us remedies from various fields. And without much ado, I'd like to welcome informally. There'll be a formal introduction to Father Bryan. Father Bryan is a member of the BJP, Bombay Jesuit Province. So I'm also a member of the BJP, Bombay, Mumbai, but it's the technical term, the legal term is still Bombay Jesuit Province. And I think he's been in Rome for more than 20 years at the Gregorian University. Gregorian University is like the Harvard of Rome, very prestigious place. And he's a professor, he's a full professor there. And he looks young and handsome, but he has got a long, uh, he's very well reputed in his area of specialization as well, also in interreligious dialogue. So, Brian, we are most happy to have you address us from halfway around the world, and welcome to visit our college and engage with our students physically in the future as well. Now, a formal introduction.
Thank you, Father. Before I introduce Father Bryan Lobo, a note to the attendees. The conference kit that you have been given has a feedback form. So I urge you all to fill the feedback form after each session. It helps us better our symposium every year. Thank you so much. Father Bryan Lobo is a professor at the Gregorian University, Rome. Just a second. Um, he's a distinguished Jesuit priest renowned for his contributions to theology and interreligious dialogue, holding a doctorate in Trinitarian theology as Fides Docens Intellectum. He's proficient facilitator with a command on multiple languages. Apart from that, he's an active advocate for international religious conversations and is certain to engage and inspire us. Today, Father will be talking about religion and rejuvenation. I now welcome um, Father Lobo to address our audience. Thank you.
Well, thank you for this invitation. Can you hear me? I mean, you can raise your hands. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, so I would like to thank at the very outset Father Keith, who has invited me to make this presentation for this international symposium. And it's always an honor to be with you guys. And also, it's a pleasure to be with co-Indians, you know, to address co-Indians sometimes during the year, rather than just addressing Europeans out here in Rome. Well, the topic given to me is religion and rejuvenation. And I've prepared a slideshow. Can you share the screen, or can I share the screen with a slideshow?
Yes, Brian. Yes, you can.
Well, because it says your host disabled. You have disabled the participant to share the screen. So, well, as the technicians are trying to resolve the problem, you know, there are various methods to present this topic. Like every person, yes. Could I share the?
And we have made him co-host now.
So you can share your screen. We have enabled it on our side.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So,
Brian, you'll have to expand the PPT on your side.
okay. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you.
So fine, there would be, as I said, various various methods to present this topic, and there could be myriad ideas and insights when anyone would like to present religion and rejuvenation. We could go on and on speaking just on the topic of religion and religions, and then obviously rejuvenation. So I have chosen this methodology after having a chat with Keith, Father Keith, because I would like to finally orient this whole talk to spirituality, which is in fact an intrinsic part of religion itself. So we shall enter into some problematics with regard to rejuvenation and religion. And after that, we shall dive straight into the very important aspect of religion, that is spirituality. And I shall offer you some reflections on that aspect. So, you already had the principal tell you certain things on rejuvenation and how the students need rejuvenation. That would be one aspect of looking at rejuvenation, that is health, mental health, and physical health, the health of the whole person. And obviously, when you go online or go to a dictionary, you'll find so many meanings of rejuvenation, like regeneration, renewal, to the extent that I even found words like resuscitation and resurrection as synonyms of rejuvenation. And resurrection, as you know, is like the center stone of Christianity. Without the resurrection of Jesus Christ, you won't have Christianity. So in that sense, it's a loaded term, it's a loaded word. It can be used in various contexts. So, so now we are trying to kind of present rejuvenation in its dictionary meaning, in its universal form. So universally, you can have a meaning that everyone would accept. In any Anglophone context, in a context where English is spoken, obviously, if you say rejuvenation, they'll understand the meaning. But the moment it is used in a particular context, you will see a difference of understanding. So, so if I make a statement, one person's rejuvenation is another person's dejuvenation. Now, dejuvenation as a word does not exist in the dictionary, but we have the liberty to coin words. So by dejuvenation, but you can find a word or two used online. By the word dejuvenation, I'm simply saying it's the opposite of rejuvenation. So death, destruction, etc. Now, when I make this statement, what I'm trying to show you is that that the understanding of a particular context, which may be rejuvenating for some, would be understood as dejuvenating for someone else. Okay, and I'll get into examples. So, for example, the inauguration of Ram Mandir, Ayodhya, which happened on the 22nd of Jan this year. Now, obviously, this was a rejuvenating event for most of the Hindus, especially the Ram Bhakts, okay, the devotees of Ram. And they would like that even the others share in their rejuvenating experience. And that's a valid desire, a valid intention. But at the same time, you would have the Muslim community perhaps not looking at it as a rejuvenating experience. In fact, the Muslim leaders had told their communities to not travel in and around Ayodhya. To Ayodhya, certainly not, but in and around Ayodhya, they were not supposed to travel. Why? Because the event of the demolition of the Babri Masjid was still looming large in their minds, although many years have passed after that. And then the fear that, there are many car sevaks or many Hindu Ram Bhakts who are traveling, perhaps, they could just start off something violent against the Muslims if they see the Muslims around. So it was a valid fear. And so therefore, an event of that kind, of that magnitude, of that rejuvenating magnitude for so many Hindus would surely become an event of dejuvenation for the Muslims. Then similarly, the means to rejuvenation. So I may do something to acquire a rejuvenating experience. I may do yoga, I may do so many other things. But those means could be dejuvenating for another. And I'll just take one example. So for a non-Muslim liberal girl, let's say a Bombay girl, a non-Muslim liberal girl, the hijab could be a sign of subjugation and not rejuvenation for women. So the very fact that Muslim women, in a way, are imposed upon to use the hijab or even to cover themselves, the burqa, is seen as, let's say, the effects of male domination. So therefore, women's subjugation. So when you're talking about the feminists, women's liberation, etc., in that context, the hijab would not be looked at positively. But now you have a Muslim girl, a Muslim woman, Maryam Helal, who says the following about hijab. And I think she represents quite a big group of women in the Muslim countries, especially, who think in this way. So this is just not a painting, it's a photograph of this girl, Maryam Helal. And this is what she says about the hijab. It says, my hijab story, a better version of myself. 6th year in my hijab, and hijab builds me, it protects me. Okay, I've got it from this site, which I'm also quoting here. So Maryam is a girl who is feeling rejuvenated in a hijab. And you cannot take this experience out of her. It is her very valid and her very real experience. And it happens with a certain, let's say, norm that she has personalized, a religious norm that she has personalized, and therefore it has become freeing in her life. It has helped her in her life. But that does not mean that another girl who comes from a totally different religious context or background will feel the same using that hijab. So in this sense, you may have the contexts that differ, that become subjective in their understanding of rejuvenation. So religion can or does lead to dejuvenation and rejuvenation, because you've got to accept the fact that that both evil and good exist in religion, or probably they exist in the human being who follows religion. But religion itself, in the scriptures, you may have certain verses here and there that tend to proclaim violence in some way. And those would be the dejuvenating characters or elements of religion. So therefore, we are going to accept this fact because, perhaps there are some who think that it is religion. It is something that needs to connect us to God, relegare, as Laxantius, the father of the church, or St. Augustine would want to say. Although religion comes from religio, which was in a way used also in the secular context during the Roman times. But in any case, since religion is a reality, an institution, or a practice that is supposed to link us to God, it cannot be dejuvenating. Ipso facto, it cannot be dejuvenating. So that would be an argument. But if you see the reality of things, you find people, and especially those who are very conservative, those who become then fundamentalists, they tend to, in a way, further the dejuvenating elements of religion. And in India, in the whole history of India, we have seen this division, this fundamental division between, or the conflicts between people that have happened because of religion. So wars, conflicts, as I'm saying, fears of God, of hell, of demons, of reincarnation as a worm, etc. These are all dejuvenating elements psychologically, we are talking about psychological oppression of the youth today for various reasons, social, political, and even psychological reasons. Here you have religion propounding certain truths about God or about hell, etc. And these tend to create debilitating fears in the minds of people. And so therefore I have seen people who I'm talking of Christians. Those who are Christians may know what I'm saying, but I think all of us know this, that like before going to heaven, you're supposed to go through purgatory if at all you have lived a life of sin and all that. Now, hell could create some fear, but in some of the Christians here, purgatory is creating such a big fear. And that fear creates psychological problems. It does not help them to live their lives fully, to live their lives in all its abundance, so to speak. Now, religion that has to help you to live your life in all freedom and abundance is actually then leading you to fears and leading you to live your life in close kind of isolation, you know. So you have obviously chronic fears caused by religion, which cause psychopathological problems. And this was one of the main reasons that Freud came up with all his theories, the psychoanalytical theories, where he was trying to show that religion is causing illusions in people and therefore causing many problems. So, so religion is not that innocent, so to speak. Then you have the caste system, you have the sati system and the other unjust and degenerating systems that have religious backing. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the very religion on which we would like to support ourselves for the sake of goodness could also lead us to evil. So that's where discernment is required, and that's where then later on we would talk about spirituality, which perhaps could be an aspect that would be the most important while we consider religion and rejuvenation. Now, talking about the rejuvenating elements of religion in its very general way, well, we could say that if it gives us security, then it can lead to peace and happiness and rejuvenation. And the very fact that a person is able to place his trust in a benevolent God, you know, who is assuring me his support, who is assuring me my well-being, he is assuring me his help, is obviously needed to be trusted. And in this very trust, in this very surrender, the person tends to experience peace and even fortitude in times of troubles and problems of life. But even here, you'll find that perceptions of God do differ from theistic religion to religion. And dogmas and doctrines differ from religion to religion. So even at this level, you can find the very rejuvenating elements of one religion, as I've in a way touched upon when I gave those two examples. Even with regard, obviously, to dogmas and doctrines, you have this difference in religions about God and about their various ideas, their metaphysical ideas, so to speak, and about their doctrines and dogmas. So these differences could also cause conflicts. But to people within that religion, these doctrines could be very helpful and very rejuvenating. And security is also provided when religion offers a set of morals and ethics for the smooth running of society. But again, morals and ethics do differ from religion to religion. So in a religion, you may have the liberty to have 4 wives, for example. Polygamy could be accepted. It's a one-sided polygamy, actually. But that could be accepted in one religion, but in another religion, well, it would be a great sin, you know. So, so again, within a religion, a person again has certain morals and ethics, precisely because the person has got to live this life that is supposed to be good, that is supposed to be taking him to heaven, to paradise, that is supposed to lead him to moksha. So even that ideal, that good ideal that exists in all religions, is in some way an ideal that gives a lot of hope to people who practice their religion. And that very hope could be rejuvenating in its own way. Now, I myself can't see this. So first, what I want to say is I wanted to ask, let's say, a fundamental question here before we proceed, or rather a fundamental point to be mentioned, that for secular rejuvenation, do we require religion? Now, if at all we want to bring in development in society, in the country, in our communities, we could bring that about by social planning, by good works, by good education, etc., etc. So, so that could bring about, let's say, rejuvenation need not essentially be a religious rejuvenation, but it could be a secular rejuvenation. So you would, you could have atheists come together and talk about developing the whole society and talk about rejuvenation in general, how to rejuvenate the context in which they are living in, or in the context that we live in. We could talk about it only at the secular level. There's no need of bringing in God. There's no need of bringing in religion. So you have a healthy life, you can exercise, diet, and have a healthy life. Then the financial aspects of our life, education, and other kinds of secular rejuvenation is possible without religion. So when someone comes and tells me that I can have rejuvenation without religion, then why should I even talk about religion and rejuvenation? So, so at this stage, perhaps we may face a dilemma. That is, we have this theme, religion and rejuvenation. Is it a forced theme? Is it a valid theme? Is it a theme that we should consider in our discourses, in our discussions? And I feel, yes, obviously, religion is an intrinsic part of our beings. In fact, it is an existential reality, as already Cicero had pointed out. It is homo religiosus. We are all religious people, as we are political people. We are also religious people. Deep down, we have that reality within us. So we cannot avoid religion. And if that is the case, we have to speak about religion and rejuvenation. We have to allow religion to enter into the rejuvenation discourse. So even though secularism comes in to challenge this discourse. And I feel at this level, we need to discover an important aspect of religion that perhaps secularism cannot offer us. And that is spiritual rejuvenation. Okay. So, and this is where we're going to enter into the aspect of spirituality. So religion's potential for rejuvenation exists preeminently in spirituality. Okay. So in spirituality, you're able to go beyond religious divides, and organized religion tends to be controlled more by the doctrinal system, stifling the spirit in most cases. Whereas in spirituality, you're precisely trying to attune yourself to the spirit. And spirituality, which is linked to doctrine, is not that spirituality would like to totally free itself from religion or throw religion out of the window. No, it is linked to doctrine, but retains the freedom to follow the spirit of the law and not the letter of the law. So it is in the spirit or through spirituality that one tends to feel universal love and compassion. And I think if Buddha felt compassion for all beings, or if Mahavira felt also similar compassion, or if there are other saints who feel a kind of a universal love for everybody, not just God, then that would be precisely because of their practice of a spirituality, because of their asceticism, because of their penances and prayers, etc., etc. So spirituality puts you in touch with a core desire of all religions. There's God or liberation, in the case of non-theistic religion. So rejuvenation is the outcome of this relationship. And we're going to get into some experiences of the saints, because we want to also show how this has happened for real in the cases of the lives of certain saints. And then if your religion says that you cannot touch an untouchable, spiritually or spirituality would tell you to love the untouchable as yourself. And here I'm reminded of St. Francis Xavier. And after all, St. Xavier's is named after him, St. Xavier's College. So St. Francis Xavier, while he was going through his conversion, he would consider the lepers to be, considering at that time, in the 16th century, lepers were considered to be like practically untouchables. So he used to literally run away from the lepers, hold his nose and run away and not even want to look at them. But while he went through his conversion, while he started practicing the spirituality that was taught to him by St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founding father of the Jesuits, and remotely of the BJP, as Keith was mentioning, Francis Xavier, in his conversion experience, one day, while he was traveling, he sees this leper, and rather than just hurrying away or running away, he gets down from his horse and he kisses the leper, and he gives him some money. After that, he goes through a lot of struggle to think, I've kissed the leper and what will happen? But slowly, when he just prayed to the Lord, he was liberated from that fear. And he entered into a total consolation that he had never experienced before. So that freedom, that consolation, a person can surely experience in spirituality. So the spiritual search for God, or moksha or nirvana, leads to rejuvenation. And such seeking, so all of us would obviously want to, at least in the footsteps of our saints, of great Mahatmas, for example, would want to lead such lives, precisely because we too would aspire or desire for rejuvenation. And who doesn't want rejuvenation in one's own life, in one's own family, etc.? So, but we have got to also face the reality that there are challenges on this route. So, so therefore, we shall even point out the challenges and the rejuvenation that the saints have experienced. So saints have suffered on this journey, but experience rejuvenation. So it's not a goody-goody road, that rejuvenation, the moment we talk about rejuvenation, it has to be all good and no suffering, for example. So we have got to face the reality of this process, and for that matter, any process of liberation, of purification, has got to, in a way, involve a struggle. Okay, and this is what we're going to portray now, and then after that we shall end this presentation. So examples, and I've taken examples from different religions, different when I say Hinduism, I think one from Islam and Hinduism, and then obviously Christianity. So you have Mirabai, the famous saint, in her matrimonial love for Krishna, often transported her into a blissful state. And for us, that would be a rejuvenating state. But it also caused her a lot of suffering in her relationship with her husband and his family, who even tried to get rid of her. So when her brother-in-law gave her poison, that did not affect her. When they told her to sleep on a bed of nails, that bed turned into a bed of roses. So these were her experiences. Just some of her experiences of realizing that in being in this kind of a relationship with her God, with Krishna, obviously she's going to receive the graces of rejuvenation. She may not have thought of rejuvenation at that time, the way we are thinking. But still, this is how she describes the dream of a wedding with Krishna, and the bliss that she talks about could be understood as rejuvenation. And my bridegroom was a lord of Raja. In the dream, he held my hand. In the dream, my beloved married me, and I attained the unchanging state of nuptial bliss. So obviously, she lived that rejuvenation in her relationship with Krishna. Then you have Saint Teresa of Avila, who, a Catholic saint from Spain, who experienced great and intense moments of ecstasy. There's a famous statue where they show her in that ecstasy in her contact with God. And in the company of her Lord and lover, Jesus, one day, this very Jesus asked her, why, or rather she asked Jesus, why does he allow her to undergo so many sufferings? Because she underwent really many sufferings in her life. So he answered that this is how I treat my close friends. And Saint Teresa replied, no wonder you have so few. So the point here is this journey is obviously challenging. You also require a certain spirit of resilience, a certain spirit of commitment to come to that experience of rejuvenation in your relationship with God. So Kabir, this is the Hindu-Muslim saint who was persecuted by the Orthodox Hindu and Muslim leaders, but he survived these persecutions in his sincere and honest seeking of God. And he writes, when I worship God sincerely, tears come in my eyes for joy that I am with him. Who needs paradise? So here, paradise, which can be considered as the ultimate rejuvenation for all of us, he kind of, he kind of feels that even that paradise will not be able to give him the joy that he feels in his worship of God, in his relationship with God. So that's the rejuvenation that these saints were experiencing here in their lives, like here on earth. So there are saints who have gone through personal sufferings of deep purification, and Saint Ignatius of Loyola, as I said, the founding father of the Jesuits, he suffered debilitating scruples, okay, that led him to suicide. We are talking of students um, uh, feeling like committing suicide, they're in depressions, etc. You have saints who have gone through depressions and thoughts of committing suicide. But in their relationship with the Lord, in their commitment to the Lord, they were able to go beyond these feelings of depression and suicide. So this would be perhaps an invitation to those students who are going through this horrid experience of depression and feelings and thoughts of suicide. So he persevered and he received tremendous graces from God. Sant Tukaram suffered great sexual temptations and felt that God had abandoned him in his temptations and guilt. And he cried, I know that you, God, have become cruel. Now who will accept me? So Tuka says, you have disappointed me. I will end my life because of you. But then Tukaram did not give up. He persevered in his dark night of the soul, and God granted him intimate communion, due to which Tukaram found himself rejuvenated in utter joy and bliss. So the bottom line of these examples is that in seeking God or nirvana or moksha, you seek rejuvenation. And it is not just the work of saints to do this. Saints were common or normal people like you and me. So it belongs to each and every one of us to embark upon this journey, upon this adventure, if I could use this word, uh, in our search for that rejuvenation that all of us actually are seeking for. And religion and spirituality help in this exercise. And the final outcome of this search is self-transformation, which has consequences on the society at large. I finished my presentation here. I hear the bell ring. And Father Keith had told me to leave time for question and answers. So I guess we have some time for that.
Yes. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
I
Hello.
can hear you, Keith.
Yes. So, Brian, thanks a lot. Yeah. So we have about 20 minutes, I think, for question and answers. I'm not going to summarize what Father Brian has said. And just to kickstart the questions and answers, I thought of two simple questions. One is, would you say that there are some spaces on our globe where
I cannot hear you very clearly. Could you please be a bit loud?
is this a little better now?
Yeah, yeah.
So would you say that there are some places or spaces on our planet where people have moved from religion to spirituality, where they have where they don't focus so much on religious practices, the externals, but more on spirituality? And the second, you mentioned, you've given 7 examples of interreligious differences, but could there also be a generation gap? A generation. So you have younger generation who would be more prone, more open to spirituality as compared to older people who would be more religious, more maybe these are generalizations, but feel free to respond.
Well, yeah, the first question is true. There are certain places and spaces where people think that they are practicing spirituality and not religion. And you have many people who say that, I am a spiritual person and not a religious person. Precisely, they do not want to be considered as people who are ritualistic in their practices. But you will find that many of their ideals, which are supposed to be spiritual ideals, they actually have been born in religion. So, in a way, most of these people have been formed in a religious context. And slowly, when they find that that religion was actually not helping them in the way they were following it, in a ritualistic way, for example, they tend to then resort to a certain way of life that they consider as spiritual. So just being good or being altruistic, being kind, charitable, loving would be considered as spiritual. These are spiritual values that could be practiced without religion. So that's why when I spoke about secular rejuvenation, in that context, people would obviously accept this argument and go about their lives with this argument that they are practicing spirituality and not organized religion. But what I feel is that there has always been a link with spirituality and religion, and those people having already received a kind of a formation, perhaps in their childhood or elsewhere in their schools, they tend to finally live that kind of life, which is spiritual, but giving up the encumbrances of organized religion, rituals, etc. And then the second question about the generation gap. Well, this is also true. There is obviously a generation gap between the young and the old, and this is, well, all throughout the history of humanity. You have this phenomenon in societies and families, but this does not mean that there would be a great gap in the understanding of certain essentials of religion. Well, the youth would like to perhaps give a different meaning to certain practices, to certain ideas. So there could be even a gap of hermeneutics out here, of interpretation, but still, there are certain, let's say, when I say essentials, I mean the doctrines and the dogmas, for example, will be understood in a certain way by an organization, by a religion. So if at all you tend to think of it in a totally different way, it could be considered as heretical. So in that sense, it is expected that the community follows a certain interpretation. But at the same time, the young would like to give its own interpretation, and they are free, perhaps, if that interpretation could lead them to an experience of rejuvenation. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. See, to sort of deviate somewhat from this topic, the principal, when he has an idea about rejuvenation with regard to the dress code and the students' understanding of dress code in our college, what they understand about rejuvenation are quite contrary. I'll give you an example of generation gap. But now we'll get back to the more serious topic here. So if anybody wishes to ask a question of Father Bryan, yes, we have a question here. If the camera could spotlight this.
Hello, good morning. As a youngster, spirituality feels something very temporary as a part of my day. Maybe if I would meditate, I would be calm during that meditation. But as I go ahead with my day, I'm not able to keep that mindset. So, spirituality becomes an exercise I do because it makes me feel good, but it doesn't stay a constant throughout my journey. So, how do I navigate this space where a spiritual mindset is inculcated rather than just a discipline of sitting at one place for some time?
Well, there are different kinds of spiritualities out here. Okay, so there's no one spirituality. Now, I really don't know to which kind of spirituality you would belong to, or rather which religion, and then from there which. So because when you say meditation, It could be meditation on an object. It could be meditation on your breath as you do Vipassana. So there are various kinds of meditation and various kinds of spiritualities. But the bottom line is that you cannot expect changes or transformation in a fortnight. So as I said, this is a whole journey. And in this journey, you're going to have obstacles. So you may feel what you're feeling. You may feel that, this is perhaps not helping me. It is just temporary. It is not permanent. But precisely by practice and by being committed to it, it slowly gets into your system. It becomes permanent. Now, you see, if you see the Buddha, it took him nearly 12 years to come to that nirvanic state. So in that sense, it requires a certain commitment, as I said, and also I would say a perseverance, which sometimes you may not have because you're so bogged down with other engagements, other work, other things that you have to do in life, your studies, that could take up a lot of your time. And sometimes those studies can cause a lot of stress. Now, you may think that, I have to do meditation, as many in India, as I know of my friends who do meditation just so that they may not land into stress and depression. And many of them land into stress and depression. So, so on the one hand, meditation could promise you that liberation from stress, but if perhaps not done correctly, it could lead to that very depression and stress that you're trying to escape. So therefore, you need also guidance in this field. And as Jesuits, we talk about the spiritual director, it would be better that you have someone who could be a sounding board in this spiritual journey of yours.
Any other questions?
Good morning, sir. My name is Vedant Kannada from TYAIC. And now I had a question. Now we see many revivals of older dead religions like Hellenism or Norse paganism, Kemetism. What do you think has led to these revivals, and why are people looking back towards older sort of dead religions when we have so many in place already right now?
Well, Hellenism is not a religion as such. Well, you could say it's a philosophy and, of the Hellenic people. But anyway, what you're saying is true. There is some kind of a revival going on with regard to old practices. Okay, because when we say religion, it has been accepted that certain practices should be called religion. Okay, and therefore they are named as Hinduism or Buddhism, Christianity, etc. But certain practices would be religious, but they are not named as such. But at the same time, I think these people, perhaps they are enamored by something of the unknown there, and they would want to practice it because, there is some novelty out there. The novelty will always have an attraction. Okay. So something new would catch my attention, and therefore I would like to follow it just to see what happens. And if at all I find it having a good effect on my friends, for example, or someone else whom I know, I would like to follow it to see if that can have a similar effect on me. And I think this is the underlying attitude or desire of people who would like to enter into these revival systems. So there would be that intention in these people.
Good morning. I'm Astra from SYBSC. So my question is spirituality in today's time.
Wait, I didn't get you because it just got cut. Could you just repeat from the beginning?
I'm Astra from SYBSC. So my question is spirituality in today's time easy to practice? Like how it was compared to the ancient time?
Well, See, spirituality will always be easy and difficult. Let's put it that way, to be realistic. Um, well, I understand that if a person wants to embark on a journey, would like also to see the great facilities that it can offer, that it is facile, that it is easy. Like, I would not like to get into something that is difficult. Already I'm, having so many things to do. So I would like to get into a system that is easy for me. And that is possible with spirituality, because you will see that certain practices of spirituality could just take perhaps 5 minutes of your daily life, or it could begin in that way, in a very simplistic way. So you can say that, I'm following some simple measures of a certain kind of spirituality, and that slowly takes you into depth, into those profound experiences that perhaps the ancient seers or the saints experience because of their following or because of their spirituality, or following the difficult means of spirituality. But you'll see that when you enter into a spiritual journey, even difficult things start becoming easy. Now, that's the point that I'm trying to make. If you want a rejuvenating experience, you're going to have it in this way. But if you want, let's say, a transformation, well, in a week of practicing spirituality because it is easy, then perhaps that may not happen, because we are persons with a lot of baggage, with a lot of formation behind us, and therefore the whole person to have a transformative experience, that it'll require time. But yes, it is easy and difficult. Okay, you can begin your spirituality in an easy way, and then finally the difficulty will itself become easy as you go along.
Good morning. This is Ms. Sejal this side. Sir, I actually had two follow-up questions to the discussion that we've had here. One, you answered this young lady's question on how spirituality remains a long and arduous process today. My question then is, how authentic can it really get? Because we live in a world where the projection of a certain modality of existence is more important than actually that modality itself. So how authentic can that experience get for people? And my second question is that we have had reparative and revisionary readings of major religions in the world. We've, sort of continue to dissect and critically re-examine these religions. Then why do people continue to believe in religion as an anchoring force, despite overwhelming evidence for, otherwise? Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll take the second question. Thanks for these questions. The second question I shall take first, that, well, in all of us, as I said, there is this existential reality of religion. We are religious people. So whether you have overwhelming evidence against religions or for religions, you will always have people following religions. And these evidences would be perhaps published in academic circles. But among common people, they still live at a different level of religion, if I could, of the religious reality. So therefore, you will always have people in this way following religion, because that is like the desire of every human being. Even if there may not be an organized religion, a person may even create a religion. Like for some, football is like practically a religion, and the players have become their gods, or Bollywood actors or Hollywood actors become kind of avatars, gods for people. So whether you like it or not, religion is there to stay. Whether you have evidences against religion, research evidences against religion, religion will always be part of our lives. And even if you try to give it up, you will perhaps, practice it in some form or the other, remotely or psychologically. Now, coming to your first question, that the authenticity of spirituality, if at all it is long and arduous, could it really be authentic? Well, my take on this is the very fact that it is long and arduous, it is authentic. If at all you want to solve sometimes a problem with a single pill, when the problem is deeper than you think, then you're trying to, get a quick fix. And from that fix, you'll go to another fix, till you become dependent onto that very fix, that pill that many people take. But when you start struggling with that phenomenon in your life, and when you start, really facing those problems, and because it's a long journey, that's a time you really come to the real freedom that you're seeking. So thank God that it is a long and, arduous journey, as you said. So, and I know of one case, at least when I was in Pune, I was studying philosophy. There was this Belgian girl who had gone and joined the Osho Rajneesh community in Pune. So she was seeking, obviously, rejuvenation in our terms, but she was seeking freedom, liberty, and obviously he was a very good speaker, and he had wonderful insights, I must say. But she entered into depression, and she went to Osho Rajneesh and said, I am in depression, help me out. And Rajneesh finally said, well, you have to help yourself. Just practice this and practice that, and you can get out of depression. But she never got out of depression, and she was a Catholic. So she came to De Nobly College and met one of the Jesuits. I think he was a Belgian father, Dismet, from what I remember. And he accepted her and started once again taking her back to her roots. She had already forgotten her Christianity, her Catholicism, and taking her back to the roots, made her do her confession, slowly going for mass daily, and made her practice a certain spirituality. And mind you, it did not happen just in 1 week or two. In 2 or 3 months, she was slowly able to rid herself of those negative thoughts, of those depressive thoughts and thoughts of suicide, etc. So it is a long journey. And I think that is the authenticity of any spirituality. Don't go for these quick fixes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ms. Jennifer Jacob. I'm a teacher at Goldcrest High Vashi. I want to ask, to remedy this situation of regeneration in our students, I see when I introduce religion as a concept or going back to God and as a concept, they tend to be disassociated with it. They tend not to relate with it. So how do I make them understand that there is a higher self and that would help them, enlighten and grow?
Well, that's a very contextual question. Fine. So, like, it depends on the group that you're dealing with, the children that you're dealing with, because each child obviously will come from a family that is forming it. It's coming from those, thoughts and perhaps biases and prejudices with regard to religion and God. So I think you'll have to deal with it sometimes on a person-to-person level. But at the same time, I think for a crowd of that kind, at that level, you have to make things interesting. And you have to be creative as a teacher. You have to find out measures and means of how to make things interesting, spiritual things interesting to these kids, and get them involved in some way or the other. So I will not be able to give you, let's say, a recipe with point 1, 2, 3, what you should do for children to get interested in God or religion, or if at all they are not accepting what you're trying to say, they are simply switching off. You will have to find out another way of making them switch on, when you talk about God. And then in an Indian context, it becomes all the more difficult because you have children from different religious backgrounds. And you yourself may be coming from a background. Can I ask you from which background you are, which religious background you are?
I'm a Christian.
Yeah. So obviously, when you're a Christian, when you think about God, you're just not thinking about God, you're thinking about the three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And the moment you talk about God to a Hindu, that Hindu may be thinking, who knows, of Rama or Krishna or the Brahman, or the Buddhist may be taking Buddha as God. even though Buddha may not have wanted it. But you see the complexity of the situation in India. And that's where I think you and every teacher in India has got a big job at hand in this context. So you will have to find out ways and means of how to get through these spiritual ideas or spirituality to the kids.
Okay,
I'm sorry I can't give you that recipe as I explained. So I think that is acceptable to you.
Father Bryan, thanks. There'll be an official formal thanks, but I'd like to thank you personally for taking the trouble to be with us, getting up early there in Rome. And thank you for your excellent keynote address and the way you answer all our questions as well. I also welcome Professor Bartholomew McGettrick from Scotland. He will be with us for a considerable part of the day, and he's also going to deliver the valedictory address. Welcome, Bart. And without much ado, we'll just have the vote of thanks, and then we have a small coffee break. And Professor Bryan, you are most welcome to be with us for the rest of the day as well. I know you're.
Oh, thanks. No, I've got other appointments. I'm very sorry. I too will go for a coffee because it's still early in the morning out here.
Okay, yeah.
But an Italian coffee, but
Come, Porter. Italian coffee is nothing to compare with our Indian coffee. It's much better.
no, you want to say St. Xavier's coffee?
Okay. Respected dignitaries, faculty members, and esteemed guests, I, Akshadasana, stand before you with immense gratitude for the enriching symphony of knowledge and inspiration we have experienced. Our sincere thanks to Father Bryan Lobo for his profound keynote address on religion and rejuvenation. His insights have illuminated our minds and sparked thoughtful reflections. A heartfelt appreciation to our esteemed principal, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, for his visionary leadership. We also extend our gratitude to the vice principals, Dr. Karuna Gokarn, Ms. Alpana Palkhiwale, Mr. Marizban Kotwal, and Dr. Sanjay Parab for their dedicated efforts. I extend special appreciation to Father Keith, the director of DIRS, for his unwavering support and guidance, and to Dr. Radha, the convener of DIRS, for her diligent efforts in organizing this insightful event. In closing, the keynote address has been a celebration of knowledge, collaboration, and rejuvenation. Let us carry these learnings forward as we move ahead with our International Symposium. Thank you and happy learning.
Being a teacher, I thought my voice was loud enough. We have a tea break at 11 o'clock. So 11 to 11:15, 11:15. Our next session starts and all our esteemed speakers are already here. So we can just go down to the same place where you had breakfast for some chai and then charcha uske baad chalu hoga. Thank you.
All right. Welcome back to the symposium. Let me introduce you all to our moderator, Professor Lydia Fernandes. Yes. So I would like to introduce our moderator for this panel. Professor Lydia Fernandes is the assistant. She is the assistant professor with the Department of Information Technology here at St. Xavier's College. Professor Lydia is a seasoned educator, making sure to mentor overlooked students and engage in lifelong learning. She envisions leveraging technology and education in her future organizations to address societal needs, embodying innovation and social responsibility. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today's panel topic is rejuvenation challenges. We have an interesting panel with us. Our fourth panelist is on the way. So nevertheless, we will begin. Our very first panelist, let me introduce you to him. Pandit Balakrishna Iyer. He is an established. You can do better than that. I must say, when I went through his bio, I was very humbled to see the list of achievements that he has. I can't imagine something like that in my field when I reach his young age. He's an established tabla player, a noteworthy person among the present generation of tabla players. He has been blessed to be born in a family of musicians, where his parents were good at the mridangam and the violin. Having had an early influence of music in his life, and his hard work has led him to become a tabla maestro. In 1979, our esteemed guest became a student of Pandit Arvind Mulgaonkar, a disciple of the late Khalifa Ustad Amir Hussain Khan Sahib of the Farrukhabad Gharana. In 1998, he went on to become the disciple of Pandit Krishna Maharaj of Varanasi, the doyen of Banaras Gharana. One can find a amalgamation of both gharanas in his tabla solo performance. It is an intersection, something that's very unique to most musicians. His associations are endless, and it would take me a lot of time to read them out. But rather than skipping them, I would still mention them, which the audience can relate to. He is an A-grade artist at the Akashvani and television. Pandit Jashraj is another name that he associates with. Pandit Hari Prasad. The NCPA Mumbai is another place that has witnessed his beautiful performances. Tansen Samaro of Gwalior. USA, UK, Canada, Europe. He is not limited to the boundaries of our nation. University of Florida, Arizona, Virginia, etc. He has performed at these universities as well. Can we have a round of applause? We present a small.
Thanks.
Our second guest is Dr. Varsha Apte. She's a professor associated with the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Bombay. Dr. Apte is also the head of the same department. She has worked at AT&T laboratories in the US. This is a big name for computer scientists. After having earned her well-deserved PhD from Duke University in the year 1994, she joined the IIT Bombay as a faculty member. Her expertise lies in the field of computers and network performance. Developing technologies that aid in computer programming education is another area of interest for her. She likes to spend her free time in the great outdoors and listening to music. Audience, this is Dr. Varsha.
Thank you.
Well, you've seen one of a panelist coming from the field of music, a second panelist coming from the field of education. What could we expect from a third panelist? Yes, he comes from the field of the corporate.
Right. Good. Great.
Mr. Shankar Krishnan, can we have a clap? The company that he comes from holds even more weightage. He is the group head of Shapoorji Pallonji Group. Mr. Shankar Krishnan oversees strategy, human resources, IT, and corporate communications, all the big names in the industry. With his vast 14 years of experience, he coordinates with promoters, peers, and leadership teams to drive the group's strategic growth agenda. This has a lot of rejuvenation challenges hidden in them. We look forward to listening to him today. Mr. Shankar also oversees the HR functions that are crucial to the organization, like learning and development and talent management. Prior to joining Shapoorji Pallonji, he worked at Accenture's management consulting practice, mainly focused on business and IT strategy, along with organizational change management. While he was a student like you, he completed his BE in civil engineering from VJTI, and he went on to complete his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. We welcome you, sir. I would now like to open the panel discussion by inviting Panditji to share his views on the topic that we've chosen today, which is rejuvenation challenges.
Hello. 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 Can you hear me? Good morning, everyone. And I really congratulate the whole team, Dr. Radha Kumar, the convener of this International Symposium, beautifully organized here with her core group. And also thanking her for inviting me, considering me enough to speak here along with this senior professionals here. Musicians generally do not like to speak. They are shy of speaking. They don't want to speak. एक बार जब मैं थोड़ा हिंदी में बोलूँगा चलेगा ना बीच में? So once Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, the great Sarod wizard, was requested to speak something. उन्होंने कहा मैं क्या बोलूँगा, जो भी बोलेगा मेरा सरोद बोलेगा. I look at it in a different way. Unless until you speak, you cannot share your thoughts, your achievements, your problems. And if you speak your problems, then only it can be addressed. Otherwise, it goes unaddressed. So one must speak. That's what I'm speaking here. Now, I have been given this rejuvenation, as principal sir told, it's tongue twisting word. So मैंने बहुत प्रैक्टिस किया तब मुझे ये जमा rejuvenation. Rhythm, इसमें myth and realities के बारे में मुझे बोलना है. Now, I don't want to explain about time कम है, 15 मिनट के अंदर हमें समेटना है. So I don't want to speak and tell you people what is rhythm and all. सब जानते हैं, सब आप लोग समझदार लोग हैं, पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं यहाँ. Rhythm क्या है? It exists, universal है. आप feel करते हैं rhythm को, अलग से बताने की जरूरत नहीं है. It starts from हमारे से शुरू होता है, जैसे कि our heart beats in a rhythm. एक rhythm चलता है और उस rhythm से हमारी जिंदगी चलती है, शरीर चलता है. हम कुछ ऐसी एक्टिविटीज करते हैं जैसे ओवरवर्क करते हैं, स्ट्रेस लेते हैं, स्ट्रेनियस जॉब करते हैं, और ये जो मटेरियलिस्टिक वर्ल्ड में अपने आप को आगे ले जाने के लिए ऐसी चीज़ें भी करते हैं जो हमें नहीं करना चाहिए, जो हमारे शरीर हमको इजाज़त नहीं देता है. उस स्थिति में हमारे शरीर का रिदम बिगड़ जाता है. जब शरीर का रिदम बिगड़ता है तो हम डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं, तो फिर हमारा चेकअप करके डॉक्टर हमें कहता है, कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट, कि भाई ये दवा ले लो, या फिर एंजियो कराओ, एंजियोप्लास्टी कराओ, बलूनिंग कराओ, स्टेंट लगाओ, ये वो करके एंड में आप ठीक हो जाते हैं, आपकी बॉडी रिजुवेनेट हो जाती है, एंड डॉक्टर आपको आपके पुरानी लय में वापस लेके आता है. आपका रिदम रिजुवेनेट हो गया, वापस आप काम पे लग जाते हैं. फिर कसम खाते हैं कि भैया अब ऐसा कुछ नहीं करेंगे कि वापस तकलीफ हो जाए. अब हम जब किसी नेचर की बात करते हैं तो अवर नेचर हैज गॉट इट्स ओन रिदम. सनराइज, सनसेट, डे, नाइट, सीजन्स, अर्थ रिवॉल्विंग, ये सब रिदम में होता है. ये एक रिदम है जो चलता है, अच्छी तरह से चलता है, और ये मिस नहीं होना चाहिए. जिस दिन ये रिदम मिस होता है उस दिन हमें तकलीफें शुरू होती हैं. हम इसको कैसे मिस करते हैं, हम इसका क्या कर रहे हैं, ये हमें सोचना है. यूनिवर्स के बारे में या हम जलवायु के बारे में जब बात करते हैं तो हम वातावरण को किस तरह से सबोटेज कर रहे हैं, ये सोचने वाली बात है. जैसे कि कंक्रीटाइजेशन, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन, केमिकल वेपन्स, वॉर्स, कटिंग ऑफ फॉरेस्ट, ये सब कुछ बातें हैं, रिक्लेमेशन, जिससे कि हमारा नेचर जो है वो उसकी लय बिगड़ती है, उसका रिदम खराब होता है. तो उसको हम रीजेनरेट करने की कोशिश करते हैं. कैसे? 1000 पेड़ लगा दिए, कुछ रिजर्वायर्स बना दिए, तो हमें लगता है कि हमने रिजेनरेट कर दिया है, कुदरत की लय को, कुदरत की रिदम को हमने रिजेनरेट कर दिया. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होता है, बिकॉज द अमाउंट ऑफ सबोटेज वी हैव ऑलरेडी डन कैनॉट बी रिजुवेनेटेड. तो हमें इसके बारे में सोचना है कि हमें कैसे वातावरण को संभाल के रखना है, इसको खराब नहीं होने देना. हम इसको बना नहीं सकते, अच्छा नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन कम से कम बिगाड़ने से बचा सकते हैं. एक बात. नाउ व्हेन आई कम टू इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक, उसके बारे में जब बात करते हैं तो रिदम एंड म्यूजिक कैन नॉट बी सेपरेटेड. म्यूजिक इज नेवर कंप्लीट विदाउट रिदम एंड वाइस वर्सा. जब आईसीएम, यहाँ शॉर्ट में हम इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक को आईसीएम कहूँगा, आईसीएम की बात जब हम कहेंगे तो थोड़ा हमें पीछे जाना होगा. जैसे कि पहले, ज़्यादा पहले नहीं, इवन इन 40s 50s तक हमारे यहाँ क्लासिकल म्यूजिक में एजुकेशन का सिस्टम थोड़ा अलग था. उसको हम लोग गुरु शिष्य परंपरा कहते थे. उस गुरु शिष्य परंपरा में शिष्य या स्टूडेंट जो है गुरु के घर में रह करके संगीत, डांस जो भी है वो सीखता था, और टोटली डेडिकेटेड टू म्यूजिक ओनली, और कुछ नहीं, कोई स्कूलिंग नहीं, कुछ नहीं. बस 10 साल 12 साल वहां रह करके गुरु से विद्या ग्रहण करना पड़ता था. नॉट ओनली विद्या, द गुरु डज नॉट ओनली पार्ट विथ हिज म्यूजिक, उसके साथ में उसको उसका रहन सहन, तहजीब, किस तरह से उठना बैठना है, दूसरे म्यूजिशियन के साथ कैसे बात करनी चाहिए, अपनी कला को किस तरह से प्रेजेंट करना चाहिए, एंड अगेन किस तरह से आने वाले जनरेशन को सिखाना चाहिए, ये सब पूरा उनका नर्चरिंग होता था. 10 साल के बाद, 12 साल के बाद गुरु खुद कहते थे कि भैया अब आप बाहर जाओ और अपना करियर बनाओ, आगे जाके कलाकार बनो, जो करना हो करो। आज के जमाने में वो पॉसिबल नहीं है। गुरु खुद छोटे बड़े घरों में रहते हैं, उनके पास इतना टाइम भी नहीं है, इतना पैसा भी नहीं है कि शिष्य को अपने घर में रख के खिलाए पिलाए और सिखाए। शिष्य के पास भी टाइम नहीं है, क्योंकि उसको इसके अलावा भी कुछ स्कूल में जाना है, ग्रेजुएट होना है, कुछ तो करना है आगे, क्योंकि संगीत के लिए कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि आगे जाके आप इसके यू कैन मेक योर लिविंग और नॉट। तो आज क्या हो रहा है, वो परंपरा खत्म हो गई। देखिए, इस परंपरा में जो कलाकार हुए उनका मैं बताऊं, पंडित रविशंकर, पंडित कुमार गंधर्व, भीमसेन जोशी जी, ये सब गुरु शिष्य परंपरा में सीखे हुए लोग हैं। और आज ये परंपरा खत्म नहीं हुई है, लेकिन चल रही है, इसका शक्ल बिगड़ गई है। वो ऐसी कि गुरु अपने घर में रहते हैं, शिष्य उनके यहाँ जाते हैं, क्लास 3 क्लास होता है, हफ्ते में 1 क्लास, हफ्ते में 2 क्लास, 1 घंटे का क्लास होता है। वो उनको पेमेंट करते हैं, आजकल तो जीपे भी करते हैं, मैं भी करता हूँ, मेरे स्टूडेंट को सिखाता हूँ। पर इंटरनेशनल नैरोबी से, यूएस से सीखते हैं, 1 घंटे सिखाता हूँ जूम के ऊपर। गूगल नेट ज़्यादा अच्छा है, उसको उसके ऊपर गूगल मीट में ज़्यादा अच्छा सुनाई देता है और बीट भी मिस नहीं होता है, तो उसमें सिखाता हूँ, फिर वो जीपे कर देते हैं, बात खत्म। ये अभी आज के ज़माने की गुरु शिष्य परंपरा का रूप हो गया है। अब हम चलते हैं स्टूडेंट्स के बारे में, उनके चैलेंजेस के बारे में, म्यूजिशियंस के बारे में, उनके चैलेंजेस के बारे में। अब हम ये कह रहे हैं आपसे कि 12 साल 10 साल गुरु से सीखने के बाद जब बाहर आके पूरा म्यूजिशियन हो जाता है और उसका करियर बनना शुरू हो जाता है, आज ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है। आज 4 साल 5 साल सीख के उनको लगता है कि हम आर्टिस्ट बन गए हैं, अपना सीडी पेन ड्राइव सब निकालते हैं, यूट्यूब में अपना लिंक डालते हैं, जितना हो सके उतना फॉलोअर्स इंस्टाग्राम में और यूट्यूब में, अपने फेसबुक में क्रिएट करते हैं, उसके बाद उनको प्रोग्राम मिलते हैं। ये आज की स्थिति है। दूसरी बात, किसी कलाकार के पास जाकर के हम 20 साल सीखते हैं, अच्छी तरह से सीखते हैं। आप लोग यहाँ पे सब स्टूडेंट्स हैं, मैं भी स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ, मैंने भी ग्रेजुएशन किया है। तो हम जब कॉलेज से निकलते हैं, बाहर डिग्री लेके निकलते हैं, जैसे कि फॉर एग्जांपल कोई MBBS की डिग्री लेके निकला है 23 साल की उम्र में, तो उसको फौरन से RMO की जगह मिल जाती है, किसी भी हॉस्पिटल में रेजिडेंट मेडिकल ऑफिसर बन जाता है, 40-50 हज़ार से उसकी तनख्वाह शुरू हो जाती है। यहाँ हमारे इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक में 20 साल 25 साल गुरु के पास गुरु सेवा करके सीख के नाक रगड़ के कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि आपको 1000 रुपये का प्रोग्राम मिले। ये सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है। इसके लिए इसमें लोग प्रोफेशन करना नहीं चाहते और कर भी नहीं पाएंगे, क्योंकि ये स्थिति है, वस्तु स्थिति है। क्योंकि आज अगर यदि आप अच्छा गाना बजाना कर भी रहे हैं तो आप लोग उनको रिकग्नाइज नहीं कर रहे हैं। कॉर्पोरेट्स ये कहते हैं कि जिनका नाम है, जो ब्रांड एम्बेसडर्स हैं, उनका ही प्रोग्राम करेंगे, जिनका टिकट बिकता है उनका ही प्रोग्राम करेंगे। और मजा ये है कि टिकट भी बिकते हैं उनके, लोग भी हैं, फॉलोअर्स भी हैं, नए लोगों को कोई सुनना भी नहीं चाहता, कोई उनका प्रोग्राम सुनने के लिए जाना भी नहीं चाहता, तो उनकी भी गलती नहीं है, दे आर राइट इन देयर ओन प्लेस। अब क्या किया जाए? दूसरी और परेशानी यह है कि पहले के जमाने में गुरु जैसे पंडित रविशंकर जी थे, वो अपने साथ अपने शिष्यों को, जैसे कार्तिक कुमार जी, नीलाद्री के पिताजी, वो शमीम अहमद खान साहब, इन लोगों को अपने साथ स्टेज पे बैठा करके उनको सिखाते भी थे, इंट्रोड्यूस भी करते थे, और उनको कलाकार भी बना के उन्होंने छोड़ा। आज थोड़ा उल्टा हो रहा है। आज के हमारे जो कलाकार हैं, दुख के साथ बोलना पड़ रहा है कि वो अपने बच्चों को, सिबलिंग्स को लाने में ज्यादा विश्वास कर रहे हैं। और उसमें भी एक ऐसा है कि साहब ये 4th जनरेशन 5th जनरेशन लीनिएज ठीक है लीनिएज, मैं मानता हूं कि लीनिएज के बिना म्यूजिक नहीं होता। पंडित हरिप्रसाद चौरसिया कम्स फ्रॉम ए फैमिली ऑफ रेस्टलेस, उनका कोई लीनिएज नहीं है, फिर इतने बड़े हरिप्रसाद चौरसिया फ्लूट के विद्वान कैसे हो गए? तो लीनिएज डज नॉट हैव टू डू एनीथिंग मोर। आप में बात होनी चाहिए, आप में डेडिकेशन होना चाहिए, तो आप आएंगे। ये लोगों ने सिद्ध कर दिया है, हरिप्रसाद जी जैसे लोगों ने सिद्ध कर दिया है कि लीनेज नाम की कोई चीज जरूरी नहीं है कि आपके पास स्ट्रिंग शुड बी अटैच्ड। लेकिन यहाँ भी ये हो रहा है कि लीनेज के नाम पे अपने बच्चों को प्रमोट कर रहे हैं, और जो उनका शिष्य 20 साल से सीख रहा है उसको तो साइड लाइन कर दिया। तो उनका क्या होगा बेचारों का? वो दुखी रहते हैं, प्रोग्राम नहीं मिलता, डिप्रेशन में चले जाते हैं। ये उनके प्रॉब्लम्स हैं। अब ठीक है, आप म्यूजिशियन नहीं बन सके, जॉब मिल जाए। जॉब कहाँ है? आकाशवाणी में कोई एम्प्लॉयमेंट नहीं है, दूरदर्शन में कोई एम्प्लॉयमेंट नहीं है, फिल्म डिवीजन बंद हो गया है, सॉन्ग एंड ड्रामा डिवीजन बंद हो गया है। गवर्नमेंट के पास कोई भी ऐसी वेन्यूज नहीं है जो कलाकारों के लिए खुला है। तो कलाकार क्या करे? हाउ टू मेक द लिविंग? ट्यूशंस करे? ट्यूशंस इन्फ्लेशन में कैसे अपने परिवार को चलाएगा? ये बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है उनके लिए, ये बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है हमारे सोसाइटी में। अब हम म्यूजिकल सोसाइटी में हम सोचते हैं कि इन लोगों को जो बहुत अच्छे हैं और जिनको चांस मिलना चाहिए, उनके लिए क्या किया जाए। 2001 में मैंने इन माय जर्नी व्हेन आई वॉच्ड ऑल दिस गोइंग ऑन जो चल रहा है, तो मैंने अय्यर फाउंडेशन बनाया। अय्यर फाउंडेशन का उद्देश्य यही था कि जो अनसंग हीरोज हैं, जो अच्छे कलाकार हैं लेकिन कुछ कारणों से उनको प्रोग्राम नहीं मिल रहे हैं, या जो बच्चे हैं जिनको प्लेटफॉर्म अपॉर्चुनिटीज नहीं मिल रही है, तो उनको दे रहा है। तो वी हैव बीन डूइंग दिस। ऐसे बहुत सारी संस्थाएं और निकल गई हैं, वो लोग कर रही हैं, उनका किसी तरह से रिजुविनेशन हो रहा है। ये अब हमें एक और प्रॉब्लम आज आगे आ गया है। 5 मिनट और। अब ये प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारा संगीत जो है वो थोड़ा सा उसका शेप बदलता जा रहा है। वो कैसे? कि देखिए, क्लासिकल म्यूजिक, लाइट क्लासिकल म्यूजिक, लाइट म्यूजिक, गजल्स, भजन्स, ये सब हमारे अलग अलग जॉनर्स हैं। इसमें अभी नए नए जॉनर्स जुड़ रहे हैं। फ्यूजन म्यूजिक, वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक, इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक, वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक, दोनों को आप देखेंगे तो कहीं से किसी का कोई मेल नहीं है। मैंने बहुत पूछा, बहुत लोगों से पूछा कि भाई, एक वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक के बहुत बड़े वेल नोन आर्टिस्ट हैं, उनको मैंने पूछा कि कैन यू डिफाइन मी एग्जैक्टली व्हाट यू मीन बाय वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक। उन्होंने कहा कि अलग अलग लोग तरह से लोग आते हैं अपने अपने जॉनर से, कोई कहीं से आता है और हम लोग सब इकट्ठा होते हैं, फिर बाद में हम लोग मिल करके बजाते हैं, गाना बजाना करते हैं। सुर और ताल तो यूनिवर्स है, सब जगह एक ही है। फिर हम लोग बजा के क्रेसेंडो में आते हैं और फिर लोग तालियां बजाते हैं, अच्छा लगता है। दैट इज वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक। ठीक है, आप मुझे बताइए कि आप में से कितने लोगों ने, मैं यहाँ क्रिटिसाइज नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं आपको वस्तुस्थिति बता रहा हूँ यहाँ पे कि क्या हो रहा है और क्या नहीं होना चाहिए। देखिए, आज से 25 साल पहले पंडित विश्व मोहन भट्ट, नाम तो सुना होगा आपने सब लोगों ने, गिटार के, है ना? उनको अवार्ड मिला था। कौन सा अवार्ड मिला था? ग्रैमी अवार्ड मिला था। काय के लिए मिला था? क्लासिकल म्यूजिक के लिए मिला था। इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक के लिए उनको ग्रैमी अवार्ड मिला था। हमें बहुत खुशी है, इस बात का नाज है, और हमें अभिमान भी है कि हिंदुस्तान को जाकिर भाई ने आज 3 ग्रामी अवार्ड दिलवाया। 3, एक नहीं, 2 नहीं। हमारे पंतप्रधान नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने उनको कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट किया है। इस लेवल का वो प्राइज है। सोचने वाली बात है कि क्या वो हमारे हिंदुस्तानी म्यूजिक को मिला है? नहीं, वो वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक को मिला है। फिर वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक क्या है, ये आपको समझना चाहिए। अब जब तक आप वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक नहीं जानेंगे तो आप कैसे समझेंगे कि किस बात के लिए उनको दिया गया है। इसमें से कितने लोग हैं जिन्होंने शक्ति का एक भी नंबर सुना हो? आपने सुना है? जब हमारे क्वेश्चन आंसर होगा तब आप मुझे बताइए कि आपको क्या समझ में आया। सोचने के लिए टाइम दे रहा हूं आपको मैं। थोड़ा मैं बता देता हूं वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक में क्या होता है, या शक्ति में जो हुआ है। अच्छी चीज है, नई चीज का स्वागत होना चाहिए, क्यों नहीं होना चाहिए। बेस कर्नाटक है, शंकराभरणम, या फिर कल्याण, या दूसरा चारुकेशी, ऐसे कुछ जो कॉमन राग हैं जो बहुत ही फेमस हैं। ऐसे कुछ राग लेकर के शंकर महादेव ने उसमें सरगम करते हैं, वायलिनिस्ट उसमें वायलिन में कर्नाटक सरगम करते हैं। कर्नाटक में सरगम बहुत हाई लेवल का सरगम होता है, जो हमारे अजय पोहनकर जी और अजय चक्रवर्ती जी बाला मुरली कृष्ण जी से जाके सीखे हुए हैं, और उन्होंने कौशिकी जी को भी सिखाया हुआ है, इसलिए वो इतना लेवल का सरगम करती हैं। हाई लेवल का सरगम बहुत ही ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स सरगम होता है। शंकर जी हो गया, वायलिन हो गया, सेल्वा गणेश मृदंगम और खजीरा बजाते हैं, जाकिर भाई इंडियन ड्रम बजाते हैं। ये तो पूरा हो गया इंडियन सेटअप हो गया। अब इसमें वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक लाने के लिए कुछ करना है, तो उन्होंने जॉन मैकलॉफन को बुलाया, उसमें उन्होंने जैज गिटार उसमें जोड़ा। मैकलॉफन 50 साल से इनके एसोसिएशन में है, तो उनको हिंदुस्तानी म्यूजिक, इंडियन म्यूजिक के बारे में बहुत नॉलेज है, वो उसके साथ फ्यूज कर सकते हैं। उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा फ्यूज किया है। ये अपने जॉनर से बजाते हैं, वो अपने जॉनर से बजाते हैं। एक लूप होता है, कॉमन लूप, उसको पकड़ के चलते हैं, प्री कंपोज्ड हैं, और अंत में सब मिलकर के एक चीज को बजाते हैं। क्रिस्टेंडो खत्म करके सम पे आते हैं, लोग तालियां बजाते हैं, यहाँ वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक खत्म हो जाता है। हमारे यहाँ ये कहा जाता है कि हिंदुस्तानी शास्त्रीय संगीत आपके मन को शांति देता है। मैंने 5 मिनट और मांगा है, चलेगा ना? 5 मिनट बोलूंगा तो। आपके मन को शांति देता है, आपको सुख देता, चैन देता है, तो वो श्रेष्ठ है। या हम थोड़ी देर के लिए एक्साइट होकर के एकदम से, जैसे कोई बढ़िया सलमान खान की पिक्चर देख करके बाहर निकलने के बाद जो हमको फीलिंग्स आती हैं, वो सुन करके म्यूजिक से बाहर आते हैं, तो ये हमें सोचना चाहिए कि क्या हमें करना है। दूसरी बात, संगीत जैसे मैंने कहा बदलता जा रहा है, तो आज हमें क्या करना चाहिए? अभी इन्होंने ये भी लिखा है कि इसमें सॉल्यूशंस भी बताइए। आने वाले जमाने में जो बच्चे आएंगे, जो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन के बच्चे हैं, उनको हमें एजुकेट करना पड़ेगा, उनको बताना पड़ेगा कि ये क्लासिकल म्यूजिक है और ये वर्ल्ड म्यूजिक है, या ये फिर जो भी है आपका फ्यूजन म्यूजिक है, वो उन्हें अलग अलग बताना पड़ेगा। अदरवाइज आफ्टर 2 डिकेड्स और 3 डिकेड्स क्लासिकल म्यूजिक की आइडेंटिटी अपने आप में खत्म हो जाएगी, और जो भी एक्सिस्टेंस होगा उसी को हम लोग क्लासिकल म्यूजिक के नाम पे आगे बढ़ाएंगे। दैट इज वेरी बैड, दैट विल नॉट बी ए वेरी गुड सिचुएशन फॉर इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक। मेरा टाइम खत्म हुआ, और भी बहुत कुछ बोलना चाहता था, मगर उन्होंने, मैडम ने भी कहा कि भैया घड़ी देख लो, ये भी बार बार देख रही थी। सो एनीवे, आई वॉट एवर आई कुड शेयर माई एक्सपीरियंसेस इन दिस वर्ल्ड ऑफ 45 ईयर्स जर्नी, जो मैंने उतार चढ़ाव देखे हैं, और जो मैं देख रहा हूँ मैंने आपके सामने एक्सप्रेस किया। इसमें मैंने किसी को कोई क्रिटिसाइज नहीं करना, सब अच्छे हैं, जो भी अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। भाई आपने अच्छा काम किया, इसलिए तो लोगों ने उसको एक्सेप्ट किया है, उसको तो आप कैसे भूल सकते हैं? लोक रंजन एक चीज होती है ना। आप कितना भी अच्छा गाना बजाने कर लीजिए, लोगों को पसंद नहीं आया तो उसका फायदा क्या है? उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है। आप घर में बैठ के दीवालों को सुनाते रहिए अपना गाना बजाना, हाँ, खत्म हो गई बात। ऐसा नहीं होता है। लोक रंजन बहुत जरूरी है, लोगों को पसंद आना चाहिए। मुझे अपना गाना बजाना, मुझे मेरा तबला पहले पसंद आएगा, तो मैं एक्सपेक्ट करूंगा कि आपको भी पसंद आएगा। मुझे ही नहीं पसंद आ रहा है और मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि आपको अच्छा लगे, ये तो कोई बात नहीं हुई। एनीवे, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टॉलरेटिंग मी।
Thank you, sir. In the key points and whatever sir shared with us were the rhythm, the mission to run after the materialistic aspirations of this world, and how to stay clear from the perspective of music. Before I ask our next panelists to share the views on the topic, may I ask how many of us over here, can we see a raise of hands, are associated with education? You could be a student or you could be an educator. Can we see a raise of hands? Okay, thank you so much. So you guessed it right. So Dr. Varsha will be enlightening us with her views now. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Dr. Radha and Dr. Keith for inviting me here. I want to just share one small personal thing here that after my, I was, of course, a typical science and math profile kind of child. My father is also a scientist, and it's sort of the destiny was made. But so 11th, 12th, I did science in Ville Parle, Parla College. And then usual path for everybody at that time used to be engineering. And I didn't, somehow I was not writing the JEE IIT exams. I was looking locally. And the percentage to get in either VJTI or SP or something like that. But my father is a scientist and a huge believer that you can do pure science, and he believed that the country needs, the nation needs pure scientists. And so I was going to do BSc. At that time, this was 1984, and Xavier's was supposed to be the best college if you want to do BSc. And I wanted to do maths, and Xavier's had and has, I'm sure, probably the best maths department, as with all other departments. But unfortunately, so I lived in Villaparle. Unfortunately, I chickened out and I decided not to do the commute. And I took admission in Mitibai College. I still wanted to go somewhere else. Not that Mitibai College, of course, really good college. I had a good experience there. Really very good mathematics teachers there. They had a lot of fun, but my maths department was serious and good also. So I just wanted to share with people here, maybe not many BSc here, but I'm also from 12th standard and BSc kind of background. And then I did something else. But long story just to say that I have never been to Xavier's, even though it was my dream to go here. And this has enabled me to step inside Xavier today. So thank you very much. So that said, quick response to the first sort of opening, you can say, cue here of what are the, I think Dr. Varsha Degwekar is here, my namesake. Yeah, so rejuvenation in the context of academic, which I am right now. I'm a professor at IIT Bombay. I just wanted to say two quick things. There are two ways that in an teachers and an academic in IIT Bombay or in any good institution like even Xavier's, there are two aspects to your life, right? You teach and you do research. So teaching basically is an automatic way, an automatic opportunity to force you to rejuvenate basically every semester. Okay, so that is why the title. So I mean, it's the Q word is a challenge, but I want to turn it into an opportunity in the context of academic. And you will soon get my ulterior motive to here, by the way, is to convince all of you to become academics. But every time, for example, you have to teach the same course. By the way, I looked up the dictionary meaning of rejuvenation, okay, because it sounds like reinventing and so on, but it is not. It is restoration of youthful vigor. Okay, so restoration has a connotation that something has aged or gone a little, fraying at the ends a little, and you need to, sort of rejuvenate it back. So, जो थकेला है उसको तो you teach that course at the beginning of the semester. Towards the end you really kind of get tired. Next semester or next year again you have to teach the same course, and you have to restore youthful vigor in it, because what the people sitting in front of you are entirely new. So again, opportunity in academic setting, only setting in the world, I would say only profession in the world where the majority of the people around you stay the same age. So corporate, I was in corporate also for 8 years, and everybody grows older with you. There are some new people joining, but everybody else is here. 10,000 students always between 18 to 22 in the campus, and never have to worry about the campus aging. So there is youthful vigor, and you have to restore yourself to meet that youthful vigor every semester. That's the teaching part. Research, in case of research, it's an even smaller granularity, which is again why the title of my overall theme was continuous rejuvenation. Research is about new ideas, and you have to continuously think of something new. And if you are thinking of something and that idea gets expressed somewhere, that's it. That minute it's old, and you cannot then say the same idea and claim that to be new. So, I was thinking something I was going to publish, or I was going to be the first one to write about it, claim it, and then somebody does it. And that's it. I have to rejuvenate, restore, novelty into it, cross the next frontier. So it's continuous. It's on a daily basis that you have to pretty much rejuvenate. I mean, maybe a bit of a dramatic emphasis there of daily, but surely on a, really very, very much continuous. In fact, you don't know which day something is going to appear in the world that you were trying to be the first one to do. So it's a continuous rejuvenation. And so life of an academic and especially technology, although I feel today is the day and age, I personally, I feel maybe because I'm old and my youthful optimism is gone, that is probably the, no, I am, I just, I hope my, the world is kind of going through a tough time. So new ideas, fresh ideas in every field are required. But technology, which is another part of the title of my thing, technology is changing at too much of a blinding pace. So continuously rejuvenating in the face of technology is something that is an opportunity. That's what my sort of bigger message is. If you want to be in a profession which demands that you rejuvenate yourself continuously, then do a PhD and be an academic. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have been joined by our fourth panelist now. Let us welcome her with a round of applause. Dr. Varsha Degwekar is an alumnus of the esteemed MGM Medical College in Indore. In the year 1987, she won a gold medal in obstetrics and gynaecology. She started her own care and cure maternity and nursing home at Powai in Mumbai. It has completed its silver jubilee. She is a visiting consultant at Godrej Memorial Hospital. Her focus is very noble, which is making quality care affordable to patients. Her major interests are high-risk pregnancy and ailments related to menopause. One of her achievements really caught my attention, for which she has been recorded in the Limca Book of Records. She has been key in delivering a normal delivery of a child weighing 5.2 kilos. I can imagine the kind of stress that must have been. Her other interests include traveling and Indian classical music. Welcome, Dr. Varsha. Welcome, ma'am. We'd like to hear from from Mr. Krishnan now, his perspectives on the topic. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I'd like to thank Radha and Keith. I can call you by your first name, sir. So thank you very much, Radha, for having me in this panel, and to Keith, for both of you for doing this session. One other confession I must make. I don't know who took me from down up to here. It's a very happy confession. This is the first time I too have entered St. Xavier's College. I've spent all my life in Mumbai. I know all about your college from a distance, but I've never entered its hallowed portal. Such a beautiful architectural delight it is. I took a couple of pictures from one of you who was kind enough to do that for me. So it's a pleasure to be part of this panel and fascinating to hear your multiple perspectives. My life is not as interesting as Panditji and ma'am. But I'll tell you a little bit about me. As I said, all of my life has been in Mumbai, and you may not believe it, but at some point of time, I was also a student. Let me go to switch gears. We've talked about academia, and sir has talked so eloquently and so passionately about the world of the performing arts, which is a topic which is also dear to me. Let me talk about my karma bhumi, so to speak. It's just the corporate arena, right? And it's also an important part of the economic equation. It's one part. We all need everything going. So let me talk a little bit about, and some of you will be probably planning to go into the corporate arena, or you'll at least intersect with the corporate arena. Extent, let me share my thoughts on rejuvenation in as much as it relates to the corporate field. First of all, the context, and I'll be relatively brief and we can have other questions probably which add on. The context of life today, and therefore also corporate life, is stress. And this, by the way, has been perennial. 50 years ago, they would have talked about stress. 50 years from now, they'll talk about stress. The nature of stress changes because complexity is also increased. So corporate life has, like other professions, its own kinds of stresses. And a lot of it is talked about and researched, what employee stress and what it does to employee well-being and what it does to employer well-being. If the employees are not engaged, not motivated, and are stressed, then employers therefore notice this by way of attrition, by way of lack of productivity, and so on and so forth. This topic is not a trivial topic. And the topic of rejuvenation relates to the topic of stress in the environment, stress for the employees. So the first part is to recognize that there is stress and employees need to deal with it. And the second part is to state that rejuvenation is a critical part in a professional journey, as much as it is in any journey of life. Of course, this has relevance also for organizations because they have to recognize that individuals have this intrinsic need to deal with the stress and also transform themselves in a world which is changing. Many parts, he talked about the performing arts and how that has changed in 40 years. She talks about technology, and technology changes the most. All of us, I'm sure medicine equally. But the corporate arena is an arena which is extremely fast changing. In most industries, it's not what is today is going to prevail tomorrow. Your job is not going to be the same. Your job may not be there. Other jobs might come. So rejuvenation in the context of a corporate life is to constantly reassess yourself and 2 or 3 other things. Have a passion for lifelong learning and reinvention. The curiosity, intellectual and aesthetic curiosity to transform yourself continuously is something which should not be divorced once you get out of the portals of a college. The world is changing very fast. You do need to reinvent, and therefore you need to rejuvenate. More than that part of it, the practical part of it, there is a psychological aspect, because the moment you transform yourself to say, I want to keep learning, every day I want to meet new things, then the process of rejuvenation builds into itself into your life cycle. The second point of rejuvenation I'd like to talk before I end this part is about the role of social connections in dealing with stress and in rejuvenating. There is enormous research in psychology which tells you that for lifelong happiness, much more than money, much more than fame, much more than skills and talent, social interactions are super critical. So in a work environment as well, whether it's medicine or college and so on, the social interactions that you form, some are deep, you can't marry everyone, some are trivial, all matter a lot for your psychological well-being, and that will help you to deal with rejuvenation. So I'll end with that.
Thank you, Mr. Krishnan. I won't take up much time, and we would like to hear from our fourth panelist.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. You'll have to excuse me for my hoarse voice. Perhaps you may think it is the androgen excess, but it doesn't matter at my age. So Varsha has already stolen my opening sentence of giving the definition of rejuvenation. Anyway, so good afternoon to all of you, all my young friends here, and the dignitaries here on the dais. Thank you, Radha, for having me in these deliberations, and the entire team and sir from the college, St. Xavier's College. Like him, this is my first time into the college premises. I've been in Mumbai for 32 years and never been here. So it's a privilege. Maybe I'll take a ground tour later on. I have a few things which I had noted down, particularly because there are certain quotes. I'm going to speak on the condition which affects most young girls today, that is PCOS. PCOS, whether it is a 20th century disorder, whether it existed earlier. So I have a few quotes. So I'd like to read from my text. Jim Rohn, a renowned motivational speaker, had said, take care of your body. It is the only place that you live in. PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome has taken epidemic proportions. So the question arises whether it is a 20th century disorder. Let us see what the father of medicine, Hippocrates, said in 400 BC. So he says, and I quote, "But those women whose menstruation is less than 3 days or meager are robust with masculine appearance, yet they are not concerned about childbearing, nor do they become pregnant." This more or less sums up the PCOS phenotype. Later, much later in the modern times, there were two gynecologists called Stein and Leventhal from the US. During random autopsies or surgeries, they found out a connection between irregular menses and a polycystic appearance of the ovaries. Since there was no sonography at that time, this was, they just documented during the surgery and autopsy, which was very good of them because nobody would know that it would turn out to be such an important connection. Around that time when this was further kind of emphasized and more such connections came up, the name given to this disorder was called Stein-Leventhal syndrome. When I was a medical student, both undergraduate and postgraduate, we had a short note and for which we got 5 marks on Stein-Leventhal syndrome. Every year, practically, there would be a short note on Stein-Leventhal syndrome, and it was a given ki 5 marks to sure shot हमारे ही हैं. इतना तो 2 line तो कोई भी लिख देगा. The problem came in the last maybe 20-25 years when this has reached epidemic proportions. So what is the incidence? The incidence in the Western literature is about 10% of young women or women across most ages. In India, or particularly the Southeast Asian race, the incidence has as high as 21%. So from a 5 marks footnote to seeing 4 to 5 new PCOS patients every week, we have come very, very far. That makes us, dig deeper into what has led to this epidemic. Is it genetic? Is it environmental? What is the reason behind these growing numbers? So let us go into the first part, which is rather simple to deal. That is the genetics of it. Most of the study papers say that the incidence of PCOS genetically transmitted is only 1 to 5%. The other thing that they have found out is girls who were exposed to androgenic progesterones when they were in the womb are more likely to get PCOS. So that leaves the majority of the PCOS. Where does it come from? Let us deal with then the environmental issues. So we are dealing with nature or nurture. So here we are coming to the second part, nurture part. There are 3 important things that we need to understand as to what has changed in the environment. And it is a very large study. There are multiple studies. It's a very complex disorder. So the first thing that I feel, and that has changed over the period of time, is from the hunter-gatherers to a stable farming community, from rural to urban. The woman's hormonal structure in the body has adapted to the change. So this is something for thought. From a hunter-gatherer where a lean muscular body or perhaps a more masculine body would be beneficial, to the farming community which was more sedentary. And now from rural to urban, the same change. So if we look back, we have become more and more sedentary every century. So in the 21st century, we are and of course, from here on, more people may become more sedentary or otherwise also if they decide to change. This is the first thing, that is the environment, first change in the environment that we have noticed. Another change, which is of course also my personal favorite theory, is about 30-35 years ago or 50 years ago, when women were, they started working, going out of the home, earning money. That time it was the job that they were seeking. It was not a career that they were seeking. There is a difference. So there is a huge difference. When you are competing either in the college or at the career, you become a little aggressive. And this aggressiveness increases the male hormones. This is another factor why we are seeing more and more PCOD cases in the current scenario. A third and a very disturbing reason is that there are a lot of microplastics in the environment. So in the soil, in the air, in the water, there are these microplastics release estrogens. So young girls are exposed to small quantities of estrogens much earlier than they were scheduled to. So there will be early menarche, there will be PCOS, there will be infertility, and later there will be endometrial cancer. This is the entire spectrum of estrogen excess. So now we have touched upon these three different things which lead to environmental changes, which lead to polycystic ovarian syndrome. Let us then decide of who we should label as PCOS and what is the exact criteria. Worldwide, Rotterdam criteria have been established as the benchmark. The first Rotterdam criteria is less than 8 menstrual cycles in a year. The second is androgen excess, or in simple terms, male appearance. So, which can be called hirsutism, that is excessive facial and body hair. It can be a masculine body type with central obesity. It can be acne. It can be male pattern balding. So these are the things. This is the second criteria. The third and the commonest criteria that almost everybody comes across, and that is the first thing that the girl comes and tells me, "Mujhe PCOS hai." And I said, "Okay, but how do you know that?" He said, "मेरे sonography में doctor ने लिखा है कि polycystic ovaries हैं, so I'm having PCOS." I said, "Okay, wait, let us deliberate on this. Let us sit down and decide whether you really have a problem." The PCOS morphology in a sonography does not make anybody a polycystic ovarian syndrome. The other two criteria also need to be fulfilled. The ovarian volume should be more than 10 cc to be labeled PCOS. So all these put together, sorry, we have established now the criteria of whom to label as PCOS. So now we have touched upon the criteria, we have touched about the etiology, that is the genesis of PCOS. Now we come to what can we do to alleviate this problem. There is no one shoe that fits all, and neither is there any magic wand. So a lot of people say, "हमने 3 months का treatment लिया, but कुछ हुआ ही नहीं." The whole thing came back after I stopped the treatment. Okay, like I said in the beginning, it is a lifelong work on your body. You have to live in it. So you better be careful about what you're doing. Most of my prescriptions have a triangle on the back side. So all of you know what an isosceles triangle is. Triangle with 3 equal sides. The first side is diet. The second side is exercise. And what is the third? Sleep. Perfect. So 3 sides. I think I must have stolen this from somebody. It's not original then. So the first side, let us come to the first side. This is not going to be a very prolonged, boring lecture on dietetics and healthy lifestyle, etc. Just we are touching upon a few things which are very basic. The first thing is diet. So diet in very, very logical thinking is a low carb, high protein, high fiber diet at regular intervals. I said low carb. I'm not saying no carb. Okay, so some amount of carbohydrate is required to generate the energy for our brain and regular functioning of our body. So this is the first prong of the isosceles. The second prong of the isosceles triangle is exercise. Now, again, the quantum of exercise and the intensity of exercise is something which everybody has their own definition. For somebody, being regular means maybe doing it once a week. For me, being regular is 350 days in a year. 15 days I give myself. Once in a while, I can cheat. So the intensity and the regularity of exercise matters. What is an intense exercise? All the young people here I can definitely suggest intense exercise because your bodies can take it. Any exercise which doubles your heart rate in a sustained fashion, doubling of the basal heart rate. When you wake up, there's a basal heart rate. All of you have smart watches now, so you can very readily record what is your basal heart rate. Doubling that and even adding your age to that, that is the intensity of exercise that will burn the fat. If it is anything less than this, somebody walks, somebody says, I do yoga, I tell them, just leave those things for me. For you, something else is required. So this is the second part of it. So exercise 5 times a week, intense exercise. And the rest, the 2 days also should be active rest. It is not as though you give up on the 2 days and, just laze around. You can change the pattern of exercise. You can swim, you can dance, you can maybe take up a game. So this is the exercise part. The third and the base of the triangle. Most of you will perhaps very easily understand the diet and exercise part, but have never thought about the sleep part. All our hormones, all depend on a diurnal rhythm. If we do not have adequate sleep, the diurnal rhythm is affected, and over a period of time, hormonal balance will be affected. When I started about 20 years ago, all this call centers came up, and I realized that a lot of girls started having menstrual irregularities, particularly those who had a 1 o'clock shift or a 3 o'clock shift. So there is a direct connection between your menstrual rhythm and your diurnal rhythm. We are exposed to so much light. We watch the lighted screens, phones, tablets, TVs, gaming consoles, everything we watch almost endlessly and mindlessly. More than anything, we don't even realize how much we are watching. If you set your screen time, if it is showing your screen time, most people will have a screen time of 12 to 14 days, 12 to 14 hours, and these people are not even working on computers as their daily job. So housewives, children, students, even elderly people, everybody is guilty of too much exposure to the lighted screens. This causes a lot of sleep disruption, and obviously it will lead to hormonal imbalance. So having now decided that this is the quantum of lifestyle change, diet, exercise, and sleep, then we come back to so the first is always a lifestyle change. Only next comes the medication. There are wonderful medications which will take care of the hormonal excess, particularly the androgen excess. There are oral contraceptive pills which will take care of the irregularities in the cycle. Never shy away from medication. If the consultant is suggesting that you take a certain thing, he or she must have thought it out and they are suggesting something. Do not decide for yourself. There are people who say, मुझे diabetes है लेकिन मैं तो diet और exercise से manage कर लेता हूँ. That is fine. That is the first thing to do. But if your diabetes is of a very severe intensity, then you will require oral medication or maybe even insulin. So I call PCOS as the diabetes of ovary. It is nothing else but insulin resistance and the diabetes of the ovary. So some people about 30% girls will be all right with the dietary and exercise and sleep balance. And wonderful, they are happy, they go back. Once in a while, they do come and report that, I have missed my exercise for a few months and I've been lazy and I haven't eaten outside. So their irregularity comes back. So they have become wiser and understand that they have to look after their body. The other medicines, wonderful medicines that we have are myoinositol and metformin. As I said, if your doctor feels that you require them, please go by what they are saying. Do not expect magic because you have to work on your bodies continuously. Health is a relation between body and you. So you have to nurture it, you have to cherish it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a few questions to ask you all. And post that session, post that round, we'll open up the panel to questions from the audience. So audience, please keep your questions ready. My first question is to Panditji. You spoke about rhythm and you spoke about falling prey to the aspirations of this materialistic world. With the youth around today, these are some of the common anomalies that we face. What would be your advice to the youth gathered here today and how they should steer clear of these temptations?
To get established as a musician takes its own course of time. You cannot become a musician in 2 years or 3 years. There should be a perfect training and sadhana of at least 10 to 12 years. After doing the sadhana and achieving something, then only you should come out on the stage. Then you will be definitely get successful.
Just to add to that question, the world sees that fame is everything. Fame is the new game. So how would you respond to that statement?
It is very, very easy to become famous in these days because of the social media. मगर उसको बना के रखना, उसके लिए काम बहुत जरूरी है. रातों रात आप फेमस हो गए, सुबह आपको भूल भी गए. लाइक न्यूज़पेपर, सुबह पढ़ा, शाम को रद्दी हो गया है. आपको रातों रात नाम मिल जाएगा. आपको 1 लाख 2 लाख इंस्टाग्राम के आपके फॉलोअर्स भी हो जाएंगे, लेकिन आप कभी पंडित रविशंकर नहीं बन सकते. ये सब.
Thank you, sir. My next question will be to Dr. Varsha Apte. Ma'am, how do students find ways to rejuvenate themselves while dealing with the 3 years of rigorous education where there is peer pressure, the need to excel and outperform, and the urge for acceptance in their groups?
Thank you for that question. It's very important. Actually, the answer is, I think, certainly in the IIT setting, that rejuvenation is not happening at the level I would hope to see. I'm hoping in a open liberal arts place like Xavier's, maybe it is more. I mean, many students, of course, find their way. So again, I mean, why should a young person who is still growing even need to rejuvenate? That itself is a contradiction in words, right? You are just growing, and growth means change. So changing doesn't mean rejuvenation. Rejuvenation means something is getting old inside you unnecessarily. You're stalling, you're hitting a wall, and therefore you need to rejuvenate. So it does happen, actually, certainly in the competitive institutes in India. Students land burned out, completely burned out. And the first year has to be their rejuvenation year. It's very unfortunate that an 18-year-old has to say that I need to rejuvenate. They should never have to say that, but they actually do. So the big universities, competitive universities do offer the opportunities. The rejuvenation should be sought out by, as actually Mr. Krishnan very rightly said, by first starting social interactions, getting out your nose out of your mobiles and laptops, and stepping out and creating social interactions. Through social interactions is where you learn new things. You have been, solving 15,000 maths problems till 1 month back. And now if you want to do an event, remember that in 5th standard, you were doing dance or music or something. Now you want to do it again. That's when you need to do it again. It starts with social interactions. It starts with aggressively taking the opportunities that good educational institutes, again, like this one and others, bring to you, and just really take those explicitly. Through social interactions and engagement with, I don't like to call it extracurricular. It's a very weird word. It's just engagement with, enriching activities other than what happens in the classroom. That's how students should rejuvenate if they need to, if they have burned out at some point of time. The trick, I would say, actually for youth is to really just not reach the level of burnout. Don't take anything in your life that is burning you out. But maybe not everybody has the choice. So take the opportunities that come to you. And again, Dr. Degwekar said very well, opportunities will come to you in terms of, you are youthful. You can run on the road also if you want. You should, you don't need like a posh campus with a big ground and everything. Do whatever you can, wherever you can. Keep fit, keep socially engaged, sleep 15 hours a day only, and we can't. So not 15, no, so a healthy number of hours per day. But and that's how you rejuvenate if you have to. That's mine.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to ask Mr. Krishnan the next question. Sir, should, just like Panditji said, nature has its own rhythm. Comes out, it's afternoon, the sun goes down, it's sunset, then comes a night, time for rest, and you rejuvenate again. Should rejuvenation be an activity that is self-driven, is my first question. And do you see, or are there organizations that take up a proactive role in sensitizing employees towards the need for rejuvenation?
Let me respond to the first question first. You are the master of your own destiny, each individual. So when it comes to dealing with your life, my life, her life, his life, really the destiny control has to be in the individual. So when it comes to rejuvenation also, therefore, the primary responsibility, unless you're an infant, where the responsibility is for the mother, or for an adolescent, where the responsibility could be for the parents, this kind of age and onward, you are responsible for your destiny. Therefore, you're also responsible for any rejuvenation that you might want to do for yourself. So the first aspect of that is to acknowledge the need for rejuvenation, acknowledge that there is a requirement to rejuvenate. And as she's very rightly saying, when you're youthful, this question may not be appropriate. Life is moving so fast, you're changing so much, you may not want to rejuvenate. The topic of rejuvenation becomes necessary as you hit later on in life, in your late 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, and increasingly in your late 20s also, because life is changing very fast. So the control of rejuvenation, primary control, has to be in the individual. It starts with an acknowledgement. It starts with an appreciation that there are things beyond what I'm doing in order for me to be successful, playing to my potential, and indeed being psychologically happy. It's all about the psychological aspect of it as met, not only rejuvenation or reinvention to have a better job or better career prospects. It'll all add up. So the second part of your question is, what can the ecosystem do? The ecosystem, in my case, my Karma Bhumi is organizations, but ecosystem could be in the family, it could be the friend circle, and so on. The second part of ecosystem which matters, I'll come to organizations, is really your immediate near and dear ones. So who matters to you? They need not be your family, they could be your friends. Their role in rejuvenating yourself, in placing a mirror to you, is enormous. So it's very, very important to have some people who are close friends, who will tell you the truth and to whom you can tell the truth. Even if they're just listening without commenting and without adding any value, it is to have a network of individuals. You can't speak yet to your smartphone. You can, but it won't respond back. What I'm saying is, we all spend time on our smartphone. I do too. But the emotive connect which you can maintain with certain individuals, they can be in family, they can be out of family, they can be casual. Like, this is a super critical way to get psychologically grounded. And from there, the question on rejuvenation arises. Obviously, organizations recognize that stress, which is an issue, as I pointed out, leads to issues of disenchantment and disengagement of the employee with the employer. And therefore, it leads to a situation where collaboration is less, productivity is less, outcomes are less, attrition is more. There's a felt need that this needs to be dealt with. Not out of altruism, but out of the belief that for employers to do well, you need to deal with this aspect of stress. Therefore, the more humane employers, the more progressive employers, the most sensible employers deal with this problem in different ways. For instance, many have employee wellness programs, and it's all about wellness in a holistic sense. She had three aspects to the triangle. There's the financial aspect to wellness, there's a psychological aspect, there's a social aspect, there's a career aspect, and there is an aesthetic aspect. I would like to get that last point in at the end. So organizations recognize this. They have structured and unstructured programs, which individuals then leverage. Nobody's going to tell you, you do this, you do that. The individual has to leverage these possibilities and these networks. Nowadays, it's all about networks, formal and informal. Someone will set up a platform, someone takes leadership of that platform, someone just avoids that platform. The persons who take leadership or who leverage platforms are able to benefit much more. One point I'd like to get into the topic of rejuvenation, which I ought also to get, although Panditji is the more appropriate person to get in, is whether it's in organizations or whether it's for individuals, the role of art and aesthetics in rejuvenating yourself, in seeing things beyond what you do for a living is enormous. You may not choose to do it as a profession. Not everyone is lucky enough or talented enough. But the ability and the need to appreciate art and aesthetics, music, performing arts, literature, painting, sculpture, beauty in its, and beauty is a topic by itself, as you know. This part of the world is something which I would tell students who may not be in that topic to be open to. It is a great balm. It is a great source of solace in times of need, as much as social interaction. So if there's one thing I'd like to suggest, social interactions, particularly as you grow older, because you still can't talk to your smartphone, although OpenAI is doing a lot of things where hopefully someday they can, maybe even the smartphone will talk about it. So social interactions and a sense of the importance of art and aesthetics in your lives. Organizations are doing their bit, but individuals have to control that part. They have to acknowledge that it's needed. They have to have friends whom they can talk to, and then they should be open to change. That's how I would like to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Krishnan. While Mr. Krishnan was talking, something reminded me of, I forgot to mention, he said, pursue something that you're passionate about. So that reminded me that Panditji runs a foundation. It's called the Iyer Foundation. He truly practices what he preaches. This foundation has been started in the memory of his father, and they conduct musical sessions, workshops on music, and it is also a platform for budding musicians. Can we have a round of applause for that? My last question is to Dr. Varsha, and then we'll open it up for the Q&A. Ma'am, today's generation of kids, with the lockdown that came in, it brought in a paradigm shift in the way education has been dealt with. You look at school kids, they have their WhatsApp groups. The parents are on the groups, the teachers are on the groups, the homework is sent on the group. There's no more writing down in the books. We look at the school, college kids today, their assignments are on Word and PPT. Their communication is less face-to-face, but more on the digital screen. Their reminders are on to-do apps. So definitely not just them, but sometimes even I feel I'm guilty when I see 12 to 14 hours screen time on the phone. I say, what have I done? So could you suggest us ways of how we could bring in these measures of reducing screen times, or is it just, we're just blaming the system when we say, I can't help it?
To a large degree, yes, to the last question, that we always blame the system, or we play the victim card and say, what can I do about it? Whereas we can do plenty. I don't know, most of you might have seen as there is a very popular yoga program. It's called Hab Build. And it has lakhs and lakhs of followers. They have one session on habit building. So getting rid of bad habits and building good habits. Regarding this particular question about how to reduce the screen time, he had suggested very simple but very beautiful measures. He said, first of all, make your screens black and white. The first thing, make them black and white. They will no more be very attractive to you. So you would not feel like, just browsing casually through the Instas and the Facebook pages and, something which absolutely of very little value on it, unless you are into that profession. If you are a YouTuber or if you are selling on Instagram, then of course it is your profession, your job to do it. But most other people, 90% of the people really don't need to do that. And as we all are guilty of the same thing. When I see my screen time also, many a times, of course, most of the time I have to be, I follow a particular app for my patients and other things related to the hospital. I run a hospital. So a lot of things are connected to that app. I need to be there on that app most of the time. The victim card, there is a very beautiful regarding, I just thought about it, and the victim part of it. as to why we do not, what happens to us. So the victim part is that the best saying is, it is about, it was said by a registered nurse called Megan Burke. This is from Women's Health magazine. I'll quote this. We all have reasons to not eat healthy, not exercise, but ultimately I was choosing to not make health my priority for years. I stayed in the victim mentality and I couldn't lose weight because of PCOS and hypothyroidism, but that was a lie. I could and did once I stopped making excuses, changed my diet. Here, of course, that applies to the screen time also, like everything else. That is, long ago, somebody says that everything that is healthy is something that you would not like to do. So everything that gives you pleasure is fattening or immoral or illegal. And now I can add to that, everything that you do for pleasure is also carcinogenic. So it causes cancer. So leaving that apart, if we can and we have the will, we can do most things. So how to reduce your screen time. Like I said, make it black and white, make the captions very small, leave the phone far away from your bed or your workplace, do not charge it for a day. So multiple things you can do to get rid of this phone addiction. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, you invite a doctor as a panelist and you get free consultation. Well, jokes apart, with ma'am sharing so many valuable points, the 4 C's that came across were cause, concern, care, and cure. And that's why she has very well named her maternity and nursing home as Care and Cure. Thank you to all the panelists for giving us inputs from diverse perspectives. And now I open up the platform for our audience. Our audience, may I please inform you that our panelists are eager to receive questions from you. So I have maintained the time and we have around 30 minutes to keep them engaged. So please do keep them very busy.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the insightful session. If I may I ask 2 questions? Thank you. My first question is a conflation of music and technology. So my question is for Panditji and Professor Varsha. With the proliferation of AI tools and the kind of misinformation that they propound, how would you suggest rejuvenation happen for, particularly in the realm of music, where Panditji, as he so rightly mentioned, the richness of traditional music and the cultural legacy of Indian classical music is dying down. So that is one question in terms of, that conflation of technology and music. My second question is to Sir. We have employees dealing with chronic stress because of burnout, which is on a day-to-day basis. It happens, perennially. We are in that vicious cycle of burnout. But there's also rust out that is happening for a lot of professionals, like, when they've been in a particular field or a domain for a long time. So how do you suggest rejuvenation happen for people who are now experiencing boredom or loss of, satisfaction with their jobs after a certain time of fulfillment within the cycle? Thank you so much.
So thank you for your question, because AI was something I wanted to touch upon definitely. And coincidentally, actually, just yesterday we had a meeting in IIT Bombay for a proposal for a new center for entertainment technology. And a big part of it, of course, the only reason computer science department should be involved at all in entertainment technology, we have no business being there other than because of AI. So obviously the CS people want the AI there. But as somebody who is personally also, she said in my introduction that I love music and I'm a deep what do you say, fan of the arts, all performance arts and other arts. I have मैं थोड़ा class लेने की मैं ज़रूरत करती हूँ. I do a little bit vocal classical training. I do myself also. So so I mean I have a great respect for all. And as a computer scientist, what has broken into the world since December 2022, which is when ChatGPT broke onto the world, it's worrisome even for me. So how do here's my my sort of advice to everybody here, because many people here are in the arts, liberal arts, and I don't know about performing arts, but my advice to all of you is going to be: do not ignore the writing on the wall. Just do not ignore it. Make yourself AI proof. As you are, and to Xavier's people in charge here, I would also implore, figure it out, get AI into your curriculum. 15-20 years ago, there were some posh schools and everything that introduced computers into schools. They made students bring laptops into the school, so that they felt that it's better that the children learn how to use digital technology responsibility. I was actually very much against that. My child happened to be in one of their schools, and I really fought, saying that, why are you making my 8th grader bring a computer? I'm still not convinced. But in a way, there was an argument there, that when there is a writing on the wall, when there is some future that is so certain, you would rather want to train your youth to deal with it. AI is here to stay, although it really shouldn't be. I hope there are a lot of laws that protect artists, that protect intellectual output. It's going to take routine routine production into the computers. So you have to make yourself sort of relevant by not being routine. Okay, you are asked to write a piece, creative piece. First of all, try not to go to ChatGPT to just generate it, and so that while you're learning, if you don't need to, then don't. And then even if you do it, you should be at the level that whatever a generative AI produces, you should be confident that you are going to sound 10 times better than that. Okay, you are going to sound better than that, because people will use it for like regular stuff, and then you'll have to differentiate yourself by being better than that. And I honestly, very difficult to say whether AI will start sounding really very exceptionally creative and new also. Who knows? It will fool most of the people. It will not fool everybody, but I think soon it will start fooling lots of the people. So rejuvenation for artists is by learning it, sign up for courses, and figure out how to be an artist while there is AI around you. And yeah, I think that's my end of the question.
She has already spoken everything. Nothing is left for me. But here I will say that, as I said, that music has no role with AI. You have to work, you have to properly, practice properly, master it, then present. And it takes years together. By the time you become a musician, AI things may go out and something else might have come. सो AI का यहाँ कोई काम नहीं है. यहाँ पे आपको मेहनत करनी है, अच्छी तरह सीखना है, रियाज करना है, मास्टर करना है, उसके बाद में परफॉर्मर आप बनते हैं. Is it okay? The answer is, are you convinced? Thank you so much.
You had a second question. The second question concerned burnout and also rust out. First time I'm hearing that word. It's a very appropriate term as well, the second term. So let me first talk about burnout. First of all, I must mention that although I did mention stress, the psychological base which Indian civilization, communities, or the Indian way of life provides lends itself to a situation today where things like burnout are much less prevalent in the Indian workplace than you might hear in the Western workplace. Workplace, it's very commonplace to say, oh, I had burnout, I had a nervous breakdown, this, that. We have not yet acclimatized ourselves first to those terms. Secondly, the psychological base is very strong. There is a family, there are relatives, there are friends and networks. So we've not yet gone that much individual. The more you go individual, the more you go towards individualism as the philosophy of life, the more there is a chance that you will be isolated, and the more there is a chance, therefore, that the stresses of life will get to you. Stresses of life are always there. Do they get to you? That leads to burnout. The first point is the problem is not all pervasive. There is stress, Some element of stress is not bad, by the way. It pushes you to the edge and makes you reach your potential. So dealing with this stress and therefore the burnout which may arise for some of us is one question, and dealing with the rust out. First point is that the world is changing dramatically. So whether you experience stress or whether you're worried you're burnout or not is one thing. You have to rejuvenate irrespective. You have to reskill in the professional environment, in the field of, say, medicine, in the field of, say, education, and particularly in the field of AI, for instance. Things are changing so fast that not as a response to the situation of burnout or potential burnout, but merely to be where you are and to thrive in this world, you need to figure out how to rejuvenate. And that's a combination of reskilling and reinventing. So talk about rust out. Some people will feel, okay, I've been doing this job for some time. I am 32 now. I've done this job for 10 years. This job is a dead end because this industry is at a dead end. Maybe because AI is coming in its way. It's not improbable, by the way. I am a big votary of the fact that AI will change most things, right? Some for the better, some not for the better. But we don't have a choice. We have to deal with it. Now, this person who's 32, let's envision that person. Some of you will be 10 years down the line, 32 probably, has now a plethora of options. Look at the amount of content which is available for free for learning and for a minimal fee for reskilling. It was unimaginable when we were in our 20s. You have all the possibilities to reskill. You can attend MIT's lectures for free. You can attend Salman Khan's lectures for free, which is science at a very cutting, and not this Salman Khan. There's another Salman Khan. You can learn origami. You can learn squash. You can learn most of these things for free. You can learn the tabla to a degree. You cannot learn it to mastery, right? But you can expose yourself to a degree so that you know what direction you can take. There is no excuse for not rethinking and reskilling in this modern age because we have all the possibilities now. Will they help you all the time? No, but it will give you directions. It will allow you, by the way, in this modern world, the ability to form networks which like-minded people is much more than, say, 20 years ago. Unimaginably stronger. So you can form networks and learn from them, whether it's a skill or a craft or whether it's the same problem. Say it's the same disease you're facing. You can form a network. I know of a network of kidney transplant patients who are waiting for a donor organ, for instance. So similarly, you can form networks for learning. So in my opinion, youth needs to be extremely optimistic to begin with, and they need to be believing that this is a good age to be in. Every old generation will tell you times were better earlier and all. You should never believe them. This is your time. You should make it happen. Absolutely. Sir doesn't believe it. We all don't believe it, by the way. That's why we are on this panel. So first of all, optimism, positivism, deal with some stress. Don't let it get to you. That's part of life. And then succeed. And then reinvent yourself, which is rejuvenation. Answers your question? No reason to worry about rust out when you're 25, 30 years old. Or at any age for that matter.
Okay, good. Is it okay? Good afternoon. I am Astra from SY BSc. So my first question is to Dr. Varsha Degwekar. So I have a friend who's my colleague, and she also has PCOD issues since the 10th standard. And when she did not have irregular menstrual cycle at all. So no one was able to detect it because she was having pain throughout, like the whole 10th standard, she was in pain. Like the periods pain did not just stay for the 7 days, but throughout the whole thing. And when they got diagnosed, the doctor was like, it was because of stress and no other reason. I want you to reflect over this. How did stress affect so much that it led to PCOD?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, which is very poignant and important at this point of time. I'll start with the second part first. How does stress affect and lead to PCOD? We will come to your friend later because I don't think she has PCOD. Okay. So how does stress affect? Most of you, perhaps some of you who are biology students would know that the steroids are all interconnected. वो सब भाई बहन हैं, cousins हैं एक दूसरे के. So if there is a pathway which leads from a basic cholesterol-like structure, steroid structure. And then it leads to one direction to what we call as the corticosteroids, or in common language, the steroids that we all are worried about. The second direction leads to the male and female sex hormones. Out of the male-female sex hormones also, the pathway up to 17-hydroxyprogesterone is 70% same. Then it turns in one direction or another direction. So what stress does it? Causes, it is a typical body's response. Any type of, whether physical, is release of cortisol, which is the steroid that we were talking about, which is released from the adrenal glands. Now, some of the steroids have a potential to change into male sex hormones. That is what leads to androgen excess. So this is the reason why stress leads to, but of course, it can be a kind of, momentary thing, like somebody's approaching their 12th board exams or another competitive exam, or there is a bereavement in the family, or there is a failed business. So all these things are sudden jolt, which can lead to acute stress and may lead to excessive cortisol release and a slight change in the menstrual cycle. This was the stress part. The second part the first part that you had asked was, this girl has never been diagnosed because she never had irregular cycles. You remember our first criteria, Rotterdam criteria, less than 8 menses in a year. So she really, first of all, does not qualify to be called as a PCOS. The second part, why she is having more pain. Also, let me very, very clearly state that PCOS is 99% painless. The pain happens because of ovulation. If there is no ovulation, there is no pain. So most of the PCOS cycles will be painless. Then what is the problem with this girl? She may be facing a condition called endometriosis or chocolate cysts of the ovaries. This is something very different from PCOS. They may sometimes exist simultaneously, but they are not the same. The treatment is totally different. Some of the treatment may overlap, but the treatment is different. They should be dealt differently. There is no need to label every person with, as I said, polycystic morphology as a PCOS patient. You got it?
Thank you. Just one more question, then I'm done. To Pandit Balakrishna Iyer. So you were speaking about the fusion of two music, like the Indian classical music with that, and you just get an enlightenment for a bit of time, and then it just stops there. So can that be labeled as a fake rejuvenation or a pseudo rejuvenation? Because for a time being, you feel happy, you feel a youthfulness, you feel a restorement of your youthfulness, but it does not persist. Can that be termed that way?
See, how can you deny the existence of the music there? It is already there in front of you. They are performing. How can you deny that?
Okay.
You understand my point?
Yeah.
Now, as you said, whether it is youthfulness and then you forget and all, no, it's okay. It gives you pleasure. It's give you a sort of आनंद आ रहा है आपको?
Yeah.
अच्छा है ना वो म्यूजिक, उसको एंजॉय करिए कि आपको कुछ बुराई नहीं है. It's very good. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Supriya and I'm a teacher in a high school from Powai. My question is to Professor Varsha Apte. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
So since we both are from the teaching background, I thought of posing my question to you. So in the context of school education, there is a great deal of stagnation, especially with the teaching of the curricula and so on. Of course, the NEP and all, there are things yet to be rolled out, but as teachers, we find that a lot of things have not changed for the past so many years. And we are kind of constantly, struggling to reinvent ourselves because the classrooms are very dynamic. Every batch of students comes with a different set of requirements and complexities. So, I mean, you already talked about the invasion of AI into teaching. So apart from that, what other tip could you provide to teachers to rejuvenate themselves? Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Actually, one aspect that if we can try, I think it's difficult if you're have to teach so much as a school teacher has to. But the aspect of at least a professor's life that keeps us rejuvenated is the research aspect. So because we are doing something new there, maybe every semester I may not, but very frequently we change our the way we teach our basic content. The basic concepts may not change for decades. Physics laws and all of that are not going to change, but the way you teach them, the examples you give them changes. So similarly, but in a typical IIT professor, I teach one course and I teach 3 hours a week. So it's an unfair comparison. And my mother was a school teacher, so I know what it is, how many hours you just have to really teach, right? So that's not, yeah, really, both my father was also a professor, my mother is, I come from family of teachers. I know what it is. So while it is a little unfair to expect the same amount of time that you can give to quote unquote research, I would say keep yourselves updated in whatever time you get. I know you do get a summer and you'll get 2-3 weeks in between terms. Keep yourself updated with current affairs. If you're a science teacher, then there will definitely be science magazines that are written for general people, general science people. And then bring those in, bring the developments that are happening around your world, bring those as examples. Okay, even in if you're teaching maths, you have to stop using old the boy goes and buys 1 apple and 3 oranges. Say something different, say something different. Maybe there is I don't know, a smartphone that costs so much, and you want to buy a gift for mommy. How many friends should you get to contribute to something? So whatever, you can give examples that are new, because at school level, the curriculum and the syllabus is not going to change much such breakthrough scientific inventions that go into school level happen once in, maybe the last one I can think of is DNA, the DNA helical structure. After that, nothing I think has gone into school level. So, and physics and all of that is older than that. Chemistry and everything older than that. So basically, you have to teach the same concepts, but applications, examples, continuously, like I said, every semester, every year, just force yourself to give new examples. It'll make you happy. It'll make the children also happy. Yeah.
I have a question to Madam. Madam just told 2 + 2 mangoes, 2 bananas. ये मत सिखाइए, कुछ नया करिए. अब I am a student of chemistry, organic chemistry. आप हमारे जो रिएक्शंस हैं, बड़े-बड़े रिएक्शंस हैं और उसके फार्मूलाज हैं, वो कैसे आप दूसरी भाषा में सिखाएंगे?
नहीं, मैंने कहा लॉज नहीं चेंज होते, लेकिन एप्लीकेशंस चेंज होते हैं. एटलीस्ट आप एग्जाम्पल ले सकते. अगेन आई विल कीप कमिंग बैक टू स्मार्टफोन. अभी स्मार्टफोन का जो ये है, द स्क्रीन, वी कीप टॉकिंग अबाउट द स्क्रीन, बट द स्क्रीन इज एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ phenomenal material science progress, right? There is chemistry in it, there is everything in it. So at least examples can be given.
Thank you.
Hello, I am a chemist myself, and I also do a lot of teaching. One other thing I find missing is when chemistry is taught, it's all about formulas, reaction, physics, and all, but connecting it to your day-to-day life. For example, I'm talking of surfactants. I have to, where do you use surfactants? I give the equations, I give the formulas, but in toothpaste, you have a detergent. When I wash my clothes, there's a detergent. So bring those real life examples where people start connecting why chemistry is useful to my life and why I should understand it. I think if you bring that in, whether physics or chemistry, doesn't matter, all subjects, even music for that matter, when you teach, what is the importance of music? It is one of the best tools for rejuvenation. But that element also must be taught along with the subject. Everything has to be related to your day-to-day life. I think that makes more sense. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, sir. I think ma'am wanted to ask a question.
Great afternoon to all the panelists. Shivani here from Hiranandani Pavai. Our says rejuvenation, challenges and remedies. Why does rejuvenation come with challenges first? Why does it, when we say that rejuvenation is there amongst us, it's there in that corner, there in there, why is it so challenged that we need to go and actually search for it? I'm an academician, so when I go into the classroom, I really feel challenged to rejuvenate the students who are sitting there, and then the challenge falls on me. I find it difficult. Where do I find it? So please, if you can answer that, it would be a wonderful thing for me. All the four.
I'll stick to my subject because that is what I have the deepest interest in. See, when I said I missed out on a few things, on a few scenarios when we were talking, I was talking. And the first scenario that came to my mind is a 17 or 18-year-old girl walking with her visibly stressed mother. And she's either defiant or depressed. Defiant because she has been hearing too much advice about weight loss, about her appearance, about her hair, face, this, that. So she is close to all advice and she's become defiant. Second thing is she may be depressed because of very poor body image. And she's not motivated enough to subject to changes. This entire thing is affecting a very bright young population who is in the prime of their either academics or their professions or even their reproductive professions, in the reproductive age. So all these put together, instead of being the light-hearted, kind of, who does not require rejuvenation. She said that 17 years old should not require rejuvenation. So instead of being the light-hearted, with a song on the lips kind of a appearance, they are already deeply into many kinds of thoughts, even depression and so many other things. That is why they require rejuvenation. That is one important, and since as I said, if 21% of the girls are like this, you can imagine the scale of the problem that we are facing. They require rejuvenation. They require a lot of counseling. Anytime a very, very young girl, particularly a 13, 14-year-old girl comes with a mother, I simply make her sit outside and watch cartoons on the TV. I give a solid piece of my mind to the mother because her anxiety, unnecessary anxiety, has brought the girl to a hospital where none is needed. And she has to be told that please do not bring the girl here again unless she's 20. So the girl is worried about the appearance, but the mother, as all mothers do, think about 20 years down the line or 15 years down the line, whether she will be fertile. So this kind of a thing does not work good on the mind of such a young girl. So that is why it is important to rejuvenate very young population in today's times. Thank you.
So your question, just to reiterate, the question is why are there challenges in rejuvenation? So let me connect. Sure. Yes. Right. So that also. Families of employed. Thank you. So on the first part, the question you had is why are there challenges at all? So let me link it to Newton's first law of physics. So every body continues in its state of rest or continuous motion unless acted upon by a force. So the tendency of humanity, particularly as we are older, middle-aged and older, not for young people. Young people, the topic of rejuvenation is much less relevant unless there are problems that they're facing in their lives and their families, right? But the tendency of people later on is to stick to a comfort zone, to do only what they're doing, not to expand their horizons, not to believe they can do more things than they're currently doing, and to believe that everything is uncontrollable. I can only do this, I can't do that. So the topic of rejuvenation is important because people, most of humanity, some are self-driven enormously. They believe they can change the world, for instance, in their own professions. But most people believe they're followers of a herd. Therefore, for most of humanity, it is important to push. That push, as I said, has to come from inside, and the push has to be accommodated by outside. So rejuvenation is a challenge because the nature of humanity, for most of humanity, is to continuously do only what you're doing and not to believe the power of your own persona and individualism, and not to believe that there are so many other facets to your own personality. So बीच में जरा सा force चाहिए, external force. That external force is a soft and kind force which has to be enforced. I'm not suggesting a thrust, to use the physics term again. Her next question, is that an adequate response from this? The next point that she mentioned is about an employee is part of a family, and she's now referring to the family of the employee. In the Indian context, the family becomes super critical for an employee, much more. I mentioned Indian Western slightly differently because our value systems are not exactly the same, although we are shifting and changing. And I'm not opposing any change, by the way. I'm just talking as a sociologist. There are differences. The Indian value systems are such that the family is an integral part of the employee's life, his or her life. And therefore, the family provides a significant safety valve also for the individual. As stresses happen in the workplace or in life, the family is a huge safety valve for the employee. And a significant positive, which I hope doesn't get lost with time, because this immense safety valve is completely well-intentioned towards you, which cannot be said necessarily for many other parts of your social ecosystem. Now, as the individual goes through certain problems in life and so on and so forth, sometimes the other side of the coin plays out. The individual forgets the family. So quite often, the belief is that the career, this happens to men much more than to women. I would imagine now things will change as much more of women get into very senior professions and roles and so on. That will also shift. But right now, the problem is largely with the males who sometimes do not recognize the balance in their lives, do not pay attention to the stresses which other people are experiencing in dealing with your stresses. Meaning, the men folk outsource child rearing significantly, used to, not today, used to the women folk, presuming that that is the stage, that is the appropriate thing. That, I think, is what has now, socially, we have accepted that, but no longer. It will no longer be accepted. So the point I was trying to state is that there is a significant rub-off effect on the family. On the positive side, the family takes the stress. On the negative side, sometimes the family is taken for granted. Yes. But things are changing. I must say, today's youth, today's middle-aged people are extremely progressive. They're able to connect the best of India with the best of the Western world and live a life which is a beautiful amalgam of these two value systems.
Hello. Hello, I'm Janhavi Deshpande. I'm currently in my final year of political science BA. My question might sound personal, but I'm sure the struggle is shared. My interest lies in financial risk as a political science student. So major chunk of my day is about following up with events constantly, then be it geopolitical or markets, and I'm constantly checking on one thing or the other. As an artist, when I sit down to write or when I'm trying to practice my sitar, there is always a target to it that I want to achieve my riyaz at a certain level. My writing has to be of a standard. And in all of this, then factors such as health, sleep, social life coming, and then everything becomes a tick box. I have to sleep well, I have to eat well because I can't afford to fall sick, because me falling sick means I miss the deadlines. Me missing deadlines means I'm not doing my riyaz, I'm not doing my research. And in this entire loop, when I try to think about my life after all of this, after my degree, I only see a continued rush, be it to build my own startup, be it to continue my riyaz better. And here, I will not say I feel burnt out, but there is a constant mental breathlessness that I feel as a youngster. I constantly feel that if I'm taking out space for leisure, I need to earn that leisure. And it's a psychological feeling. It's maybe a woman thing. But unless and until I don't put the physical labor, the mental labor, I don't think I'm entitled to any space where I can just bed rot. And so how do I, as a youngster, navigate this when I'm not burnt out? I'm not depressed. I'm not stressed about how will I handle things. But I'm very, very, very breathless about the pace of these things.
I'll just start with the answer and others will add on. First of all, what's your age, ma'am? How we wish we were 20, isn't it? How we wish we were 20 with all these problems, with the whole of the future ahead of us. Anyway, first of all, ma'am, two things, and others here who are equally adept will respond. First of all, focus. Keep just a few things in front of you and focus. Second is, have friends. Leisure is not a waste of time. Targeted leisure, whether it's a hobby or friends, will help you do the sitar as well as your risk management assessment of what's happening all over the world much better. Otherwise, you're headed in the wrong direction. So first is focus. Don't keep 18 goals in front of you. Keep 3. Next is keep some time for stress relief, which includes friends and social interactions. And I think, I wish that we were all 20. That's
Yeah, first of all, very nice, honest question about yourself. Really, kudos to your courage to speak like that. And yeah, since I see so many, again, 18 to 22-year-olds who are exactly in your situation, I do have a couple of points here. One is don't do anything for some other target, okay? Do it for that moment of pleasure, immersiveness, and, you know, complete immersive and almost a spiritual joy in whatever you do. If you achieve, and that is also not something you should target now to achieve. It should just it should just happen. Live in the moment. I don't know how much I have to tell this to IIT students, where everything in life has become now not for its own enrichment, but as a path to something else. You do an internship because you want a better job, not because you're so. Nobody is just going off for 1 month to the Himalayas, walking around, or, you know, cycling on the Konkan coast or whatever, something, you know. Do things because you are going to enjoy them in that moment. They should, of course, not be the gratifying and unhealthy ones that Dr. Degwekar was talking about. There are many things I could name that are absolutely gratifying and fun in the moment, but they are not enriching in any way. So keep your head, you know, screwed on right, and do those things like music, like sitar. You should, or again, don't make it an aim, but it'll be great if people can do things in such a way that they lose track of time. That you absolutely should lose track of time. And then you have, you know, immersed in it at a level, and then it's only for that. Sitar, if you're learning, don't do it for some exam. Okay, that I need to have that particular, my so-and-so level, another level, another level. Do it for that moment. And काबिल बनो, कामयाबी झक मार के पीछे आएगी. Great person from 3 Idiots said it.
देखिए, आपकी व्यथा सुनी. प्रॉब्लम क्या है, मेरे एक्सपीरियंस से मैं जो देख रहा हूं, मेरे पास भी जो स्टूडेंट्स आते हैं तबला सीखने के लिए, पहले आप डिसाइड कर लीजिए कि आपको जीवन में क्या करना है. आपको सितार बजाना है, आपको राइटर बनना है, आपको इवेंट ऑर्गेनाइजर बनना है, या आपको टीचर बनना है, या क्या करना है. एक कहावत है अंग्रेजी में, जैक ऑफ ऑल मास्टर ऑफ नन. तो आप डिसाइड कर लीजिए. जैसे मैंने मेरी जिंदगी में मैंने डिसाइड कर लिया था कि मुझे तबला बजाना है, बस तबला ही बजाना है, और मैंने वो ही बजाया. मैंने वायलिन भी सीखा, मैंने गाना भी सीखा, मैं गजल भी बहुत अच्छी गाता हूँ, लेकिन अपनी खुशी के लिए गाता हूँ. लेकिन मैंने तबले को चुना, इसलिए मुझे जिंदगी में कभी दुख नहीं हुआ. तो आप पहले इस चीज को तय कर लीजिए कि आपको क्या करना है. उसके अंदर आप पूरी अपनी जितनी भी एनर्जी है ना, सब लगा दीजिए. आपको सक्सेस मिलना ही मिलना है, और आप हमेशा विल फील रीजुवेनेटेड. आई एम टेलिंग यू, आपको कुछ खोजने की जरूरत नहीं है, आपको सुख अपने आप मिलेगा. और अगर ये ज्यादा ही तकलीफ हो रही है तो कुमार गंधर्व को 1 घंटा सुन लीजिए.
Hello. Yeah, hi. So I'm Arshia. I'm a first year management student. My question was, ma'am talked about digital detox as well as the onset of AI, right? So even if we try to stay away from our gadgets and everything, even if we do it for like a few hours, we lose out on everything that's going around. And on one hand, we have to update ourselves with AI or gadgets or digitalization in general. But on one hand, we also need to give us that break that, dogs, as she talked about. So how can we not go with the flow? That's what my question is.
I'm the least intelligent of all, so perhaps AI does not affect me so much. Uh, See, as I said, we have for excellence and not perfection. There is a fine line between the two. So if you, whatever you want to do, whether whatever new digital subject, whatever new skills that you have to achieve, you have to attain a certain excellence in that. You don't have to be perfect in everything. So if you understand the difference between the two, perhaps you will devote and you will balance out things. You will not devote the entire time to doing something which kind of, beyond a point stresses you out. And you would like to do certain other things. So that is my answer. Maybe 50 years ago, my Nanaji once, he was observing me while I was making some flower arrangements. And I was very troubled because the flower wouldn't stay in a particular place. And then he was observing me for quite some time. And he said, what is it that is bothering you? Just place it the way it is. It looks the best. Beyond that, if it falls, then it is not your job to keep correcting it. So same thing is for you.
So my name is Vedant Kannada. I am doing TY Ancient Indian History, Culture, Archaeology. Radha ma'am's my professor. So my question, yes. So my question is to Professor Varsha ma'am. So nowadays we have a lot of platforms like Udemy, like Coursera, Allison, where you have online based learning. And the structure there is based on you can cover as much matter as you deem necessary or exams as and when you need. And in our present day today, if our formal education system, the way it's going, which is honestly eating away large majority of time, and hence, according to me, causing stress and burnout. Should we shift to a sort of less structured way of school and college education, going more towards each student covering as per they can or as per they want to? Like sometimes class is slow, sometimes it's fast. And then exams are coming, you're not always ready for exam, there are private problems. Should education shift to that in a way to help students reduce the load and stress? Thank you.
Good question. I think just as I told others to become AI proof, I think teachers have to become online education proof. so so otherwise our profession is in danger, or will only be seen on a screen. So I think both will coexist, and there's absolutely, I mean, I have myself actually signed up for online courses, and some of the AI I learned from online courses. So I think they're fantastic. One tip I would really like to give students is, if you're doing an online course, still please sit there with a pen and notebook. Don't watch it like a TV. Then it just goes and you just forget about it. And then so sit there, make notes like it's a real lecture. Okay. There's a big downside that you just sit watching it. Please have your notes. Okay. Now, that's one thing. If you do that, for example, you will actually get quite a bit out of an online course also. They're very good, self-paced and everything. On the other hand, there is a peer learning, there is organic exchange of ideas aspect of learning that's just absolutely absent in online learning. It's you and that screen, and hopefully you making notes and then doing some practice questions and then going somewhere, maybe to some center or something, and giving an exam. If that is the correct thing that is working for you in your stage of life, great. But I think if you can find, like if we have local continuing education, opportunities where you can physically go, sit with 15, 20 people, have the live teacher there, and do the kind of thing that is happening today, it will be a very different dimension of enrichment. And I think it should always be a part of your life if you can make it. That's
First of all, a very big round of applause to our very rejuvenating panelists. I think each one of you have actually given us so many gems, especially for all of us to think about this concept, a very complex concept of rejuvenation. And when we were actually debating and we were discussing as to how this particular session has to be, and Father Keith being our constant guide to actually let us kind of analyze how the session has to unfurl, I think Father and the entire DRS core team who actually worked for this particular session would totally agree that this has gone beyond our expectations. Thank you so much. And what I'm saying really stands completely proven because of the kind of interaction that we have. There are actually some of students and our dignitaries who've come from different schools and colleges who are asking questions, but we told them that you're going to be there for lunch. So shayad lunch ke time pe aapka kafi grilling hoga. So thank you so much, audience, for being such a wonderful audience in interacting and also participating. We will take a break for lunch and we will come back for our next session where we are looking at remedies. So thank you so much. And of course, I'm waiting for Akshada. She is our PR head and she's not going to let me go like that because hamara to Instagram. So ma'am, we still have screen time here. So over to you, Akshada. Thank you.
Hello, respected dignitaries, faculty members, and esteemed guests. On behalf of everyone present and the whole DRS team, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Lydia for her exemplary moderation of this morning session of the DRS International Symposium. Ma'am, your insightful guidance and deft commitment had enriched our discussions, fostering a vibrant exchange of ideas. Now I request Father Keith to present our token of appreciation to Professor Lydia.
Lydia, I want to propose a quote of thanks to you, but you were very keen that they would.
We're truly grateful for your invaluable contributions, ma'am. Thank you for steering the session on challenges to rejuvenation with grace and proficiency. And thank you, everyone. Happy learning. We now break for lunch from 1:15 to 2:15. Yeah. 2:15. We come back at 2:15, 1:05 p.m. All right. Thank you so much. Lydia,